Naruto. Kidnapping Rin Nohara to create the strongest Kirigakure. Chapter 41. With a crisp crackle, the purple electric light dissipated in his palm. Still not working. Kakashi shook his head, feeling a little disappointed. Having lost his Sharingan, he had been trying to develop a ninjutsu to replace Chidori. To focus on his training, he even threw away his entire collection of ICHA Paradise, just to keep his spirits up. Unfortunately, he had tried many times without success, and he was starting to feel discouraged. However, remembering that passionate green figure, and the faces of Obito and Rin Nohara, Kakashi quickly cheered up. I will definitely succeed. After practicing for a while longer, Kakashi left the training ground, planning to visit the memorial stone. Once on the street, Kakashi quickly realized something was wrong. Many people were whispering mysteriously to each other, and some who saw him even cast pitying glances his way. He even felt that the dogs on the roadside seemed to give him an extra look. As a Jonin, Kakashi easily managed to overhear what these people were saying. This explains a lot of things. I always thought the Sandame's succession back then was too abrupt. The Hokage should at least be from the Senju or Uchiha, or even the Hyuga wouldn't be surprising. Yeah, exactly. And the Hokage sacrificing himself just to protect his bodyguard is too absurd. Lord Tsukumo's matter was also very strange. Maybe he really was a casualty of high-level political struggles. I really want to know who filmed The Godfather. They are incredibly talented. The Godfather. Kakashi heard many people mention this name and realized what they were referring to. It seemed to be a major film production that had been showing in Konoha for a few days, attracting many viewers, but he wasn't interested in such things and hadn't paid attention. Hearing passers-by mention the Hokage and even his own father's affairs, Kakashi couldn't help but be curious. What did these matters have to do with the movie? In any case, as a Jonin, he should be concerned about all developments in the village, especially since this might involve his father. He couldn't ignore it any longer. Kakashi immediately bought a ticket and watched The Godfather carefully from beginning to end. Given his intelligence, he saw countless allusions right from the start of the movie. Who exactly has the guts to do this? When the movie ended, Kakashi was drenched in sweat. This film actually implied that the third Hokage was the illegitimate son of Senju Tobirama, wanting to eat seaweed egg drop soup but not cauliflower soup, huh? But he had to admit, although this unofficial history was wild, it certainly explained a lot of issues. He had heard his father mention that when the third Hokage first took office, it caused a lot of opposition. After all, although the Sarutobi clan wasn't small, compared to the Senju, Uchiha, and Hyuga, they were completely unqualified to compete for the Hokage position. Why did Senju Tobirama just let Hiruzen Sarutobi become the Sandame? Furthermore, after the third Hokage took power, there wasn't much opposition from the Senju clan. In fact, they fully supported the third Hokage during the Second Great Ninja War, and even Senju Nawaki sacrificed his life. If Hokage-sama really was, then the logic would be completely sound. Kakashi was startled by his own thoughts and quickly stopped dwelling on them. But compared to the unofficial history of the Hokage, he was more concerned about something else. There was a plot point in the movie where, Boya, a master swordsman renowned throughout the ninja world, was framed and suspected by the protagonist, Yuanri, eventually committing suicide to prove his innocence. Boya, White Fang. Kakashi absolutely could not ignore this detail. In fact, when his father committed suicide that year, his heart was full of questions, but unfortunately, no one could give him answers. Coupled with his love for the village, he had never suspected any conspiracies. At this moment, his mind was filled with countless frantic thoughts, like a hurricane threatening to tear him apart. The enemy is disgusting, to actually produce a movie like this. Kakashi forced himself not to overthink it. This was definitely a trick by other villages. He rushed out of the cinema and returned to the training ground, attempting to dilute those unwanted thoughts with sweat. Inside the Hokage building, Hiruzen Sarutobi and his three old friends were also discussing the matter. Homura Mitokado spoke first. Might Dai has been properly settled. I instructed the Ministry of Finance to give him several times the subsidy of a regular ninja, and the Jonin certification process is underway. Utatane Kaharu also nodded and interjected. I've had the newspapers write a new report clarifying the facts. The Hokage has not mistreated any heroes. Next, we plan to have Might Dai give an exclusive interview, expressing his gratitude to the village, and promoting the spirit of the Will of Fire. After the two finished speaking, Danzo said coldly. Root is patrolling day and night. Anyone found spreading rumors about Might Dai will be punished on the spot. Hearing this, Hiruzen Sarutobi gently exhaled a puff of smoke, and the frustration in his heart dissipated. I owe this to you. He showed a relieved smile to his old partners. Not long ago, rumors suddenly spread within Konoha village that Might Dai, having single-handedly severely injured the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, was gravely wounded and became crippled, yet only received a small reward and still lived in a rundown apartment. Furthermore, the rumors claimed that Might Dai spent over 20 years finally mastering a powerful secret technique to defeat the 7 swordsmen, but because he was only a genin, no one cared about the technique until the swordsmen's devastating defeat became known. The rumors spread like wildfire, quickly reaching every street and alley in Konoha. Might Dai's doorstep was jammed with reporters daily, and even many ninja on the front lines heard the news. Danzo, truly an intelligence veteran, immediately realized this was a public opinion attack targeting Konoha, aimed at stirring up conflict between Konoha's ninja clans and civilian ninja. He advised the Hokage to immediately find a solution, using a combination of moves to calm the situation. Hiruzen Sarutobi tapped his pipe and looked at Danzo. This matter is not over. Root must find out who the mastermind is. Danzo took a sip of tea and spoke calmly. Hiruzen, you know that Root is severely understaffed right now, and funding is tight. It will probably take time to find the mastermind. The moment he spoke, Hiruzen Sarutobi knew what he wanted, and shook his head with a wry smile. Write me a report detailing the support you need later. Don't go overboard. Only then did Danzo nod slightly. 1 month. I will give you the results. You detained Kaharu and Homura Mitokado chuckled inwardly. These 2 old men were both highly cunning, yet neither could do without the other. In any case, Might Dai's situation wasn't severe. It was simply about taking the rewards that should have been his from the other major clans and returning them to him. Once solved, it was fine. The enemy's petty tricks cannot change the overall war situation. Hiruzen Sarutobi was about to chat about a lighter topic with his old friends when the office door was suddenly pushed open roughly. Danzo. You. He subconsciously started to scold Danzo for not knocking, but then suddenly realized Danzo was sitting right beside him, making the moment awkward. There was no help for it. Usually, only Danzo dared to push the door open like that. Asuma Sarutobi rushed in and immediately shouted. Old man, this is bad. He didn't pay attention to the other 3, they were all his father's confidants anyway. He then spilled the beans about the movie like pouring beans from a bamboo tube. After hearing it, the Hokage and the advisors all looked serious. They were all veterans who had been scheming in the ninja world for decades and clearly understood how vicious this move was. Asuma, you go back first. Don't go out for a while. Hiruzen Sarutobi ordered his son. Seeing his father look as if facing a great enemy, Asuma's sense of unease grew stronger, and he asked timidly. Old man, is my grandfather really? Hiruzen Sarutobi slapped the table hard. Your grandfather is Sarutobi Sasuke. It's written clearly in the family registry. Asuma Sarutobi muttered softly. Family registries can be changed. He didn't want to believe the movie's plot either, but running all the way here, he had heard countless discussions and increasingly felt that this matter was not simple. Seeing his father jump up, looking ready to hit him with a fire release jutsu, Asuma knew this wasn't the time for explanations and reluctantly returned home. After he left, Danzo gnashed his teeth and said, It must be the Uchiha. Everyone will definitely think it was the Uchiha who did it. In the Uchiha clan compound, the clan head Fugaku was distraught, holding the police force's report. His eyes, famous throughout the ninja world as fierce eyes, were now filled with weariness. After the rumors about the Godfather spread in the village, the Uchiha police force immediately arrested several people and warned other villagers not to speak nonsense. But Uchiha Fugaku had been the head of the police force and knew very well that if you don't let rumors spread, they will only spread more fiercely. Honestly, Uchiha Fugaku didn't care about the Hokage's unofficial history. That was decades ago, and he had no interest in the Hokage position himself. The problem was that he didn't care, but plenty of others did. After the Sandaime took office, there were many dissenting voices in the village. Some said the Hokage position should go to the Senju, while others said it should go to Uchiha Kagami. Uchiha Kagami was also the second Hokage's guard, no less skilled than Hiruzen Sarutobi, and had good relations with both ninja clans and civilians. Furthermore, the Senju clan had held 2 consecutive Hokage terms, so it was reasonable for the third term to go to the Uchiha. The final outcome greatly exceeded everyone's expectations. The Uchiha clan members suspected foul play, and the Hawk faction immediately prepared to rebel, fortunately suppressed by the old clan head. Over the years, the succession of the Sandaime Hokage had been a thorn in the Uchiha's hearts. Now, with the Godfather promoting this unofficial history, whether it's true or not, people could easily suspect the Uchiha. After all, only the Uchiha would hold a grudge about that matter. Uchiha Fugaku was torn, wondering if he should go to the Hokage to explain. Explaining would make him seem guilty, but not explaining would easily arouse suspicion from others. Just as Uchiha Fugaku was in a dilemma, someone lightly knocked on the study door. Fugaku, Shisui is here to see you. I've asked him to wait in the reception room. Her voice was soft and gentle, like a slowly flowing spring, calming Fugaku's agitated heart slightly. He got up and opened the door, seeing Uchiha Makoto standing outside, and smiled gently. Makoto, thank you. I'll go see him now. Although they were an old married couple, they still treated each other with respect. Makoto reached out and gently stroked his face, chuckling softly. That child Itachi got first place again. His teacher said he might even be able to graduate early. She had also heard about the movie and knew her husband must be in turmoil. Since she couldn't do much, she decided to talk about something happy to ease Fugaku's mind. Indeed, Uchiha Fugaku couldn't help but smile. That child is all thanks to you. With that, he stopped lingering with his wife and hurried towards the reception room. As soon as he entered, Uchiha Shisui immediately greeted him. Clan head, we're in big trouble. Seeing Shisui's furrowed brow, Uchiha Fugaku nodded. I already know about the movie. I'm still thinking about how to explain it to Hokage-sama and let him know it has nothing to do with us. But Shisui shook his head, not that, it's something more serious. He said, handing over a crudely bound white pamphlet with several large characters printed on it. Investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement. Seeing the title, Uchiha Fugaku felt his heart skip a beat. He quickly flipped it open and scanned a few lines. The seriousness of the Uchiha's oppression. Down with the Hokage's power, all power to the Uchiha. The slander of rebellious acts. The struggle between the Hawk faction and the Dove faction within the clan. After reading just a few lines, Uchiha Fugaku was already gasping for breath. At this moment, even enduring several fire release attacks would be easier than reading this pamphlet. Shisui, who wrote this? He immediately asked. Uchiha Shisui shook his head. I don't know. By the time I found out, the pamphlet was already circulating everywhere. I asked a few passers-by, and it seems to have come from incoming merchants, but those merchants are from all over the ninja world, so it's hard to trace the source. This Uchiha elite, who struck fear into the ninja world, uncharacteristically showed signs of fear. Clan head, what should we do? The movie plus the pamphlet, this was clearly meant to destroy the Uchiha. Uchiha Fugaku took a deep breath, forcing himself to calm down. Shisui, go immediately to the elders and ask them to keep a close watch on those Hawk faction members. Then go straight to the police force and tell them to be gentle with enforcement lately, and absolutely avoid conflict with the villagers. Shisui secretly praised him. As expected of the clan head, he instantly grasped the key points. This pamphlet completely whitewashed the Uchiha's past rebellious actions. Once it fell into the hands of the Hawk faction, no matter who wrote it, they would likely treat it as scripture, further stimulating their ambitions. With the Third Great Ninja War ongoing, the Uchiha clan had accumulated many battle merits, and many clan members believed it was time to change the Uchiha's status. As for the police force, their enforcement was simple and crude, often causing conflicts with villagers. Now, they needed to act with extreme discretion. After speaking, Uchiha Fugaku leaned close to Shisui and quietly asked in his ear. It hasn't been exposed, has it? Shisui's expression hardened, and he quickly nodded. No. He knew Fugaku was asking about the Mangekyo Sharingan. When Shisui awakened his Mangekyo on the battlefield, Fugaku happened to be nearby and immediately helped him conceal it. Both knew very well that if the clan learned of the legendary eyes, it would incite many undesirable thoughts, and the village's attitude towards them might also change. Actually, Shisui told a small lie. He had already been exposed, at least the Kimimaro kid knew. But he hadn't told Fugaku about it. The Uchiha clan was already in a dire situation, less urgent matters could wait. Anyway, that Kimimaro kid was from Hidden Mist, tens of thousands of miles away. Even if he spoke of such things without proof, no one would believe him. Seeing that Shisui's secret hadn't leaked, Fugaku breathed a slight sigh of relief. I'll go see Hokage-sama immediately. Bidding farewell to Shisui, Fugaku hurried towards the Hokage building. Hiruzen Sarutobi had just finished an urgent discussion with his 3 old friends and lay slumped in his chair, as if he had just fought a fierce battle. Seeing Fugaku enter, he was not surprised and motioned for him to sit. Fugaku nervously began. Hokage-sama, I. Hiruzen Sarutobi raised a hand to interrupt him. Fugaku, no need to explain, I already know. With that, he took out an identical investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement, and placed it on the table. Seeing this pamphlet, Fugaku was so anxious he almost activated his Sharingan, but the Hokage's next words moved him deeply. Fugaku, I believe this was not done by you. Uchiha Fugaku shot up, bowing deeply. Hokage-sama, thank you. Before coming, he had imagined all sorts of reactions from the Hokage. Anger, suspicion, cold sarcasm, but he never expected trust. Just for this trust, the Hokage-sama's kindness was simply endless. Hiruzen Sarutobi chuckled softly. Such an obvious propaganda offensive is clearly the work of an enemy village. I've already sent people to investigate and see who the mastermind is, but they're acting very covertly, so it might take some effort. The Konoha cinema has been temporarily closed, but there are still many mobile screening points and videotapes in various corners. I've also had the Anbu clear them out. Unfortunately, those film production companies are transnational corporations, and many nobles in the Land of Fire are also investing, making the investigation quite difficult. Uchiha Fugaku immediately declared. Whatever you need us to do, we will not hesitate to die. Hiruzen Sarutobi chuckled. Fugaku, the people of Konoha are all one family, there's no need for such words. You should now focus on preparing for the Land of Grass subjugation campaign, selecting a trustworthy group of people. Don't worry about other matters, I will inform you if anything comes up. Seeing Hiruzen Sarutobi speak to this extent, Uchiha Fugaku found it difficult to say anything more. After expressing his loyalty again, he got up and left. As soon as he left, a shadow suddenly appeared in the Hokage office. A tall young man wearing an Anbu mask walked directly to the Hokage's side and naturally lit his pipe for him. Hokage-sama, are we really not going to make a move against the Uchiha? Hiruzen Sarutobi took the pipe and shook his head. Not yet, we need the Uchiha to help us deal with Kirigakure right now. The Land of Grass, located at the junction of several great nations, was strategically very important. In principle, it was a vassal state of the Land of Fire, but Kirigakure swayed back and forth, supporting Konoha today, Iwagakure tomorrow, and then Sunagakure the day after, which was a major headache for Konoha. So Hiruzen Sarutobi decided it was time to confront the Land of Grass. First, negotiate to make them fully commit to Konoha. If negotiations failed, then launch a subjugation campaign to completely control the country. This operation was crucial. Konoha's military strength was currently stretched thin and required the support of the Uchiha clan. Once the Land of Grass was controlled, Konoha would completely seize the initiative in the west, and the war would be nearing its end. As for the north and east, Kumogakure's offensive was initially swift but, as always, unsustainable, their long supply lines limited their gains. Hidden Mist. In Konoha's view, they were just wild dogs that liked to pick up others' leftover bones. However, Hiruzen Sarutobi took a puff from his pipe and slowly said. You will personally lead a team to the land of grass and keep a close eye on the Uchiha. The Anbu ninja nodded heavily. Yes, father. Just as Konoha was in a state of panic, Kagaya Tetsu was lying in his courtyard, taking a bite of fried fish. Bah! As soon as the fish entered his mouth, he spat it back into the packaging bag. He had bought a portion of fried fish from a street vendor on a whim earlier, but it was so salty it almost killed him. As expected of a country modeled after Great Britain, their taste in food was identical. It was pitiful how the fish was treated. It was hard to say whether it or the nun fish was more miserable. Casually tossing away the fried fish, Kagaya Tetsu picked up the newspaper next to him. The media in the ninja world was still very underdeveloped, with few newspaper offices. The few existing newspapers would only publish major news. Like the current chaos in Konoha. The Hokage has issued a statement, declaring that changes are not random fabrications, and dramatization is not nonsense. Discussions about the Godfather are purely rumors. The Hokage is willing to work hand in hand with the Uchiha clan to create a future. Uchiha Fugaku stated that he will unite closely around the third Hokage, under the illumination of the will of fire. Kagaya Tetsu softly read the newspaper's contents, the corners of his mouth harder to suppress than a tailed beast ball. He wasn't afraid of Konoha refuting the rumors. As everyone knew, refuting a rumor was equivalent to confirming it. As long as Hiruzen Sarutobi and Uchiha Fugaku personally came forward to respond, it proved his plan had succeeded. It was like discussing with a rocket expert whether a rocket runs on oil or coal. If you say it runs on coal, and the expert even replies to you, then you've won. Whether it was saying Hiruzen Sarutobi was Senju Tobarama's illegitimate child or whitewashing the Uchiha's past rebellion, it was all his fabrication. The core objective was to sow discord between Konoha and the Uchiha. Upon seeing these rumors, the Uchiha might calm down, but it was unlikely that the Uchiha would calm down. Seeing the plan progressing smoothly, Kagaya Tetsu put down the newspaper, yawned contentedly, and prepared to take a nap. During this time, he not only used merchants to spread rumors but also sent 2 bone clones directly to infiltrate Konoha to further fuel the spread of the rumors. The bone clones could also use the mayfly technique. Although it only lasted for half a minute, it was perfect for this kind of task. However, using bone clones consumed a lot of chakra, and he hadn't mastered the shadow clone jutsu, so he had been feeling a bit weak lately. As soon as he closed his eyes, his mind suddenly jolted. Sensing the message from the bone clone in the backyard, Kagaya Tetsu's nascent sleepiness was interrupted. He climbed out of the recliner and asked the girl walking from the backyard with a smile. Finished. Rin Nohara was covered in sweat, the women's training clothes Kagaya Tetsu had bought for her clinging tightly to her body, revealing several damp marks. After Rin Nohara agreed to accept his guidance, Kagaya Tetsu had a bone clone specifically accompany her in training. Rin, you're progressing very quickly. He gave a thumbs up. Recalling the information transmitted by the bone clone, Kagaya Tetsu secretly sighed that he had found a treasure. As he expected, Rin Nohara was indeed a genius. She was calm in battle, decisive in her moves, and mastered ninjutsu very quickly. In time, she would definitely become a female ninja renowned throughout the ninja world, even if she didn't surpass Tsunade. It was a pity that the previous Rin Nohara died too early, just after her talent began to show. Rin Nohara, however, pursed her lips, showing disappointment. Don't fool me, I know my own capabilities. Now, let alone defeating Kagaya Tetsu, even a bone clone's strength far surpassed hers. Rin Nohara was anxious. If things continued like this, even if Kagaya Tetsu kept his promise and released her, wouldn't she still be a burden when she returned to Konoha? Looking at the girl's dejected expression, Kagaya Tetsu guessed what she was thinking. Not being able to save Obito and burdening Kakashi had severely damaged Rin Nohara's confidence. He walked over and casually helped Rin Nohara remove a leaf that had fallen on her head. Rin Nohara glanced at him warily but did not refuse this kind gesture. Kagaya Tetsu looked at those beautiful brown eyes and spoke thoughtfully. Rin, as a medical ninja, using conventional ninjutsu and taijutsu might not be the right path. Rin Nohara was stunned. If not conventional, what else could she use? But after a moment of thought, she quickly realized that Kagaya Tetsu's words were correct. The training methods of medical ninja are very different from ordinary ninja. One focuses on restoration, while the other focuses on destruction. Over time, this leads to most medical ninja having chakra flow vastly different from other ninja. Even with the same ninjutsu, the power they unleash is considerably weaker. As for taijutsu, there's no need to mention it. Medical ninja are usually so busy that they don't even have time to read medical books, let alone temper their physique. So, it's not hard to imagine why Tsunade became the idol of all medical ninja. Then what do you suggest? Why don't you develop a new ninjutsu for me? Rin Nohara was pointed out her fatal flaw, feeling a bit annoyed and asking with a hint of defiance. Keigaya Tetsu didn't mind and laughed heartily. I can't do that for now, but I can offer you a new idea. For example, using medical ninjutsu as a combat method. Rin Nohara immediately shook her head. Impossible. What kind of joke was that? Medical ninjas' techniques could only heal, how could they be used for offense? According to her, even Lady Tsunade most commonly used her super strength during combat and had never been heard of using medical ninjutsu to eliminate enemies. Seeing Rin Nohara's disbelief, Keigaya Tetsu patiently explained. My medical knowledge is almost zero, but I know there seems to be an ability called chakra scalpel, which can directly cut blood vessels and muscles for treatment without damaging the skin. The chakra scalpel has a sharp characteristic. If used to attack enemies, the effect should be good. Rin Nohara's eyes darted around, feeling as if a wall in her mind had been violently shattered, revealing a vast world behind it. That's right. Her previous thinking was too narrow, she only thought of using the chakra scalpel for healing, never considering it could be used for combat. But she quickly thought of something and frowned tightly. No, the chakra scalpel is very short. At most, it can only injure surface muscles and cannot attack vital points like the heart. Keigaya Tetsu spread his hands. You don't need to attack vital points. You just need to sever the enemy's key muscles, like the biceps, to make them lose their ability to move. Wouldn't that be enough? This was Yakushi Kabuto's idea. Keigaya Tetsu remembered that in the original story, during the Great Battle of the Three Sannin, Yakushi Kabuto fought Tsunade and used the chakra scalpel to cut certain muscles in Tsunade, making her lose her ability to move. This combat style was unexpected, and even Tsunade curiously asked about the principle. Fortunately, Yakushi Kabuto honestly explained it, otherwise Keigaya Tetsu wouldn't have known how to make it up. Kabuto's idea was great, and it was cold. After listening to Keigaya Tetsu's explanation, Rin Nohara's eyes grew brighter and brighter. Her medical talent was already top tier, having mastered the A-rank mystical palm technique at a young age. Now, with Keigaya Tetsu's guidance, many inspirations immediately sprang into her mind. But, doing this goes against the medical way. Rin Nohara's expression was conflicted, unable to overcome this hurdle in her heart. Keigaya Tetsu said seriously. Rin, if you don't give up anything, you won't gain anything. To leave this place soon, for your village and comrades, is there anything you still can't abandon? Rin Nohara opened her mouth, unsure what to say for a moment. No, who exactly belonged to Konoha here? However, Keigaya Tetsu's words did make a lot of sense. As a ninja, killing was unavoidable. As long as she didn't indiscriminately kill innocents, what difference did the means make? Keigaya Tetsu, like a sweet-talking devil, gradually persuaded Rin Nohara. The stronger Rin Nohara became, the more confident he would be in confronting Obito in the future. Moreover, once Rin Nohara developed new ninjutsu, and question marks appeared on her, he might even be able to directly acquire it. As he was lost in thought, Rin Nohara's soft voice came. I'm sorry. She apologized, forcing herself. During this time, she had discovered that Keigaya Tetsu didn't seem bad after all, and he had just given her a very important inspiration. Regardless of whether the other party was an enemy or what their intentions were, she had genuinely benefited. Logically, she should have thanked him, but she had just retorted to Keigaya Tetsu a few times, which made her feel a little guilty. Keigaya Tetsu showed his signature sunny smile. Although you were a bit rude earlier, well. If it's Rin, I don't mind. A gentle breeze blew, and the wind chimes hanging by the courtyard gate softly jingled. Rin Nohara felt as if she had been cast a paralysis jutsu and suddenly had an urge to run away. Oh, right. Keigaya Tetsu casually pointed to the newspaper on the table. Here's some recent news from Konoha that you might be interested in. Ignoring the stunned Rin Nohara, he went off for his afternoon nap. After he entered the house, Rin Nohara let out a deep breath, calmed her emotions, and eagerly picked up the newspaper. As she read, her heart was stirred by a tempestuous wave. In a secluded Zen room at the water temple, Genji picked up a cup of clear tea and handed it to the young man in front of him. "Che-kun, please." Keigaya Tetsu quickly took it with both hands. "Thank you, Elder Genji." Mei Terumi, sitting next to him, pouted slightly. "Teacher, you've never offered me tea." Genji chuckled. "Mei, you don't like tea, do you? The new chef in the temple kitchen makes excellent desserts. I brought you some." He opened the small snack box on the table, revealing several exquisite pastries. Mei Terumi's eyes crinkled into a smile, and she picked up a pastry, swallowing it in one bite with an, "Ah. Delicious." Looking at the two hidden mist geniuses, Genji showed a satisfied smile. With these two youngsters, the outcome of this war might truly be changed. Keigaya Tetsu finished his tea and asked, "Elder Genji, did you call Mei and me here because of Konoha?" He had been at home when Genji suddenly sent someone to invite him. Only when he arrived did he discover that Mei Terumi was also there. As far as he knew, this hidden mist elder rarely met guests unless there was something important. Genji nodded. "That's right. I wanted to thank you on behalf of the village. The propaganda war against Konoha was quite successful." He himself found it incredible that a mere movie and a small booklet could achieve such a significant effect. During this period, the Hidden Mist frontline forces sent back many reports stating that the morale of the Konoha squads had suddenly plummeted, and their previous unstoppable offensive had stalled, giving the Hidden Mist village a chance to breathe. Their Hokage might be a usurping illegitimate child, and the death of Konoha's White Fang might hide a conspiracy. These things were truly difficult for Konoha ninja to accept. Additionally, the Kirigakure Anbu reported that rumors were rampant among Konoha's frontline forces, causing widespread panic, especially among those Konoha squads with Uchiha clan members. These squads were originally elites, but recently, Uchiha ninja had lost their former fierce fighting style, appearing listless in battle, sometimes even abandoning enemies to fight among themselves with other Konoha teammates. The declining Sunagakure, Iwagakure, and Kumogakure naturally noticed these changes and had recently been organizing counterattacks, making the one-sided war situation confusing again. Genji knew very well that this was mostly Keigaya Tetsu's credit. If it weren't for this kid's unconventional approach to propaganda warfare, which greatly undermined Konoha's morale, the situation would probably be very different now. Those who opposed you before are now speechless. The Mizukage-sama asked me to personally commend you, and you can also ask for any reward you desire. Genji was genuinely happy for Keigaya Tetsu's success. Keigaya Tetsu nodded slightly, smiling modestly. Elder Genji, without your and Mizukage-sama's support, and Mei's help, my plan would not have succeeded. As for rewards, I don't want anything right now. Being able to contribute to the village is enough for me. The biggest taboo in the workplace is taking all the credit. Blending in with the light is the right path. As for rewards, given the Hidden Mist village's stinginess, he estimated that the prizes wouldn't be as good as what he could get himself, so it was better to be polite and show loyalty. Hehe, I only contributed a tiny bit. Hearing Keigaya Tetsu praise her, Mei Terumi proudly lifted her head. If she had a tail, it would be wagging to the sky. Genji smiled and nodded, his admiration for Keigaya Tetsu growing even more. At such a young age, to achieve great merit yet remain humble and calm, it was truly rare. He asked curiously. Che-kun, can you tell me how you so precisely identified Konoha's weaknesses? Starting with the Uchiha was a move most people wouldn't think of. Genji also generally understood Konoha's history, knowing about Uchiha Madara's rebellion back then and the Uchiha clan's dissatisfaction with the third Hokage. However, ninja clans vying for the Kage position was common in all villages, but the Uchiha being so sensitive was probably unique in the ninja world. Keigaya Tetsu's ability to perfectly leverage this history and fabricate a completely logical unofficial history that precisely broke the Uchiha's defenses was truly astonishing. Keigaya Tetsu had anticipated this question and calmly replied. Earlier in the land of hot springs, when I fought against the Uchiha squad and body flicker Shisui, I noticed that other Konoha ninja didn't help them, and many even showed hostility towards them. After returning, I specifically found a Konoha history textbook, and combining it with my discoveries on the battlefield, I used the content from the Konoha history book to compile the movie and that report. The results were quite good. This explanation was barely self-consistent. He couldn't very well say that he knew the plot, which was why he could perfectly manipulate the Uchiha. Mei Terumi gulped down her dessert and nodded vigorously. The effect was quite good. Those film companies told me that the box office far exceeded expectations, and even with low ticket prices, they made a lot of money. They're all preparing to give you a share of the profits. After hearing Keigaya Tetsu's explanation, Genji nodded and didn't press further. Keigaya Tetsu seized the opportunity to change the subject. Elder Genji, although our propaganda offensive is effective, truly turning the tide of the war still requires real combat. I suggest that the village should seize this opportunity to unite with other ninja villages and launch an attack to completely defeat Konoha. The weapon of criticism cannot replace the criticism of weapons. No matter how powerful propaganda is, it can only weaken Konoha, not defeat it. If no actual results are achieved on the battlefield, then it is meaningless. Hearing this, Genji gave a bitter smile. Tetsu, I share your thoughts, but many high-ranking officials in the village believe that with Konoha's offensive slowing down, it's not advisable to take risks, and that it's right to retreat to the island. Keigaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi exchanged helpless glances, not surprised. The conservative and backward Hidden Mist village naturally disliked initiative, and the disastrous defeat in the land of hot springs had terrified many villagers, completely stripping them of the courage to launch an offensive. Moreover, many people within the village had vested interests with Konoha. Take the Keigaya clan, for example, being distant relatives with the Hyuga, the two sides had always been in secret communication. Keigaya Tetsu sighed inwardly, the world's troubles often stem from intertwined interests. Were the hard-won gains of the propaganda war to be completely wasted? Seeing their disappointment, Genji comforted them. Don't be disheartened. I believe we will eventually find a reason to persuade those high-ranking officials to send troops. The reason I called you here this time, besides expressing gratitude, is to assign a new mission to your squad. He glanced outside, and after not sensing anyone eavesdropping, he lowered his voice. Late last night, the Mizukage-sama gave me the latest intelligence, saying that a Uzumaki clan member is suspected to have appeared in Kusagakure. Hearing this, Mei Terumi's eyes widened slightly, and Keigaya Tetsu also feigned an incredulous expression. In the ninja world, there were two things that contained ultimate power, making everyone fear them, yet also obsess over them. One was the tailed beast, and the other was sealing jutsu. In ancient legends, some sealing jutsu could even seal gods. Most Uzumaki clan members were skilled in sealing jutsu, which meant that acquiring them could directly raise a village's combat power by several levels. Uzumaki Kushina of Konoha was the best proof of this. Not only that, Uzumaki clan members also possessed powerful bloodlines. It was said that some Uzumaki clan members had miraculous abilities, making others even more covetous. With no village to rely on and possessing great potential, Uzumaki clan members were like walking pieces of meat in the ninja world, everyone wanting to claim them for themselves. Teacher, why our squad? Mei Terumi asked curiously. This could definitely be considered an S-rank mission. Although their squad was strong, it would be more suitable for the Anbu. Genji said calmly. I recommended you to the Mizukage-sama. In today's village, there are not many trustworthy people. The two understood and didn't ask further. Given the Hidden Mist village's propensity for traitors, the Mizukage and Genji were probably worried that as soon as they sent people to capture an Uzumaki clan member, the captors would immediately defect with the spoils or sell them for a good price. Mei Terumi was Genji's student, and Keigaya Tetsu had also proven his loyalty, so at least there was no need to worry about them becoming rogue ninja for an Uzumaki clan member. Teacher, we will complete the mission. Mei Terumi promised. Clan head, let us in one more charge. Now is the best chance to show the village our hand. If the village wants our Uchiha support, they should first admit their past mistakes. In the dim conference hall, scarlet eyes flickered, and saliva splattered. Uchiha Fugaku sat at the head of the table, His body, seemingly as steady as a mountain, had an imperceptible tremor. He was already very tired. Even with his and Shisui's strict vigilance, those hateful films and pamphlets still spread inevitably, and as expected, were treasured by the Hawk faction within the clan. Those frenzied guys didn't care who created these things, nor did they care if the unofficial histories within were true, they only cared about one thing. For the first time in decades, someone publicly spoke out for the Uchiha. Some ambitious individuals, suppressed for a long time, immediately became active. If it were just that, it would be fine, but many ninja in the village and at the front lines also looked at the Uchiha with unfriendly eyes during this period, suspecting that they were secretly causing trouble, attempting to reclaim the Hokage position. It was already wartime, and most Konoha clans were united, yet the Uchiha were suspected of ulterior motives, making their already poor popularity even worse. Uchiha Fugaku had called everyone together today to inform them to prepare to go to the land of grass. Unexpectedly, when the Hawk faction clan members heard this, they wanted to take the opportunity to negotiate with the village, which greatly angered Fugaku. These people completely failed to realize how hard-won the Uchiha's current peace was. Fugaku wished he could just walk away immediately, far from these madmen, but his sense of responsibility as clan head prevented him from doing so. Please be quiet, everyone. Hearing Fugaku speak, everyone calmed down slightly, all staring at him intently. We are members of Konoha, and everything should obey Hokage-sama's arrangements, we must not believe those rumors. He had to clearly express his stance. As soon as these words were spoken, the clan members immediately erupted, and a wave of louder discussion surged forth. Fugaku was furious. 3 black tomo suddenly appeared in his eyes, and vast, surging ocular power burst forth, forming an invisible pressure that made everyone present instinctively shut their mouths. Even with the same tomo, Fugaku's ocular power far surpassed that of other clan members. Moreover, 3 tomo was not his limit. His majestic, fierce eyes slowly swept across the crowd, and his steady voice resonated through the hall. Obey my command and immediately prepare to go to the land of grass. Otherwise, you will bear the consequences. He no longer procrastinated and left amidst everyone's complex gazes. Uchiha clan members respected nothing but power. Even with much dissatisfaction towards their clan head, no one dared to say anything more. Returning to his residence, Fugaku saw a small figure waiting at the door. Father. Uchiha Itachi bowed slightly. At only 4 years old, he was already very polite. Itachi, were you waiting for me? Seeing his son, Uchiha Fugaku's mood immediately lightened considerably, and the earlier hostility vanished, as he gently took his hand. Uchiha Itachi nodded, I just got back from the training ground. Seeing that father wasn't home, I guessed you went to the conference hall again. He raised his head, glanced at the wrinkles at the corners of Fugaku's eyes, and asked with some concern. Father, do the clan members still not understand you? Fugaku smiled bitterly and stroked his head. Mutual understanding between people is indeed the most difficult thing in the world. He did not hide clan matters from his son. This child's maturity and intelligence far surpassed his peers. At a young age, he had already read Konoha's history thoroughly and enjoyed discussing major village affairs with him. Itachi naturally learned about the recent Konoha rumors through various channels. Uchiha Itachi looked in the direction of the conference hall, showing a perplexed expression. Father, I don't understand why the clan members are obsessed with such foolish talk. Why can't they get along well with the village? Fugaku was very pleased that his son could ask such a profound question, but he could not answer it. Itachi, you are the hope of the clan. Some things, you might only see the hope of resolution when you grow up and mature. Fugaku replied thus. Uchiha Itachi knew his father was tired, so he wisely stopped asking. Father, I will work hard. Fugaku suddenly thought of something and gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Itachi, the village is preparing to launch an important operation in the land of grass. I plan to take you to the front lines. What do you think? He had always instilled the concept of peace in his son, but without witnessing war firsthand, he wouldn't understand how precious peace was. Itachi was a super genius, and Fugaku was worried he might become arrogant and cruel, so he decided to use this opportunity to let him experience the battlefield and deepen his son's pursuit of peace. Understood, father. Uchiha Itachi was an obedient child and immediately complied with his father's arrangement. Just as the Uchiha clan was preparing to depart, three young people arrived on the streets of Kusagakure. Keigaya Tetsu held a cup of the local specialty grass juice drink, occasionally taking a sip. Mei Terumi and Zabuza also each held a cup of fruit juice, looking left and right, occasionally stopping at stalls to haggle, just like tourists who had just arrived in Kusagakure. Not long ago, the three had infiltrated here and immediately began to inquire about Uzumaki clan members. Hey, let me taste what yours tastes like. Mei Terumi leaned her head over, her rosy lips gently biting Keigaya Tetsu's straw, and took a small sip. Ah, it's so bad. She scrunched up her face and quickly took a sip of her sweet fruit juice. Drinking someone else's drink and then complaining about it is very rude, you know. Keigaya Tetsu gave her a speechless look. This person was becoming increasingly unrestrained in front of him, completely unlike the elegant and mature demeanor she showed others. Zabuza walked behind, observing coldly, only finding the two a bit noisy. Keigaya Tetsu shook his head, held the still warm, damp straw in his mouth, and recalled information about Kusagakure. This country had a long history, seemingly existing since the era of the Six Paths Sage, but it had never developed. Similar to the Land of Rain, the Land of Grass was sandwiched between several great nations, leading to its highly flexible diplomatic policy. Although nominally subordinate to the Land of Fire, it flirted with other great nations. To call it a three-family slave, no, to call it a three-surnamed slave would be an understatement. However, Keigaya Tetsu also understood that after the Third Great Ninja War began, the Land of Grass became a battlefield for great nations. Only Kusagakure, due to Konoha's influence, was temporarily spared from the war. Such small nations were like the Cosmic Nation and Neon Nation. In his previous life, they could only survive by being dogs to their daddies. As for who the daddy was, that wasn't something they could decide themselves. However, Kusagakure itself was not monolithic, divided into the pro-war faction, Grass Fruit, and the anti-war faction, Grass Flower. The struggle between them was fierce, and this chaos led to Kusagakure's inability to control the situation, leaving the entire village riddled with holes from infiltration. Hands covered in mud, probably from Iwagakure. Rough faces like sand, definitely Sunagakure ninja. HMPH, big, blonde, dark-skinned guys, clearly those barbarians. Keigaya Tetsu observed the passers-by without a change in expression, already having spotted many spies from other villages. It seemed that Hidden Mist wasn't the only one interested in the Uzumaki remnants. A few days later, Mei Terumi and her two companions gathered in their inn-room. It can basically be confirmed now that Kusagakure has indeed found an Uzumaki clan member. Through the intelligence gathered during this period, she had made her judgment. Furthermore, I suspect Konoha will be making a big move soon. Kusagakure had many uninvited guests, but in the past few days, they noticed that the number of Konoha ninja infiltrating Kusagakure was abnormally high, with a trend toward continued increase. All three had served in the Anbu, and the proud looks of the Konoha ninja were as obvious to them as torches. Keigaya Tetsu speculated. Could Konoha be planning to directly occupy Kusagakure? His conjecture startled his two companions. This wasn't impossible. Perhaps Hiruzen Sarutobi had grown tired of Kusagakure's wavering stance and decided it would be better to control the village directly, just as they dealt with the Land of Hot Springs. The problem was that if this happened, the situation for the Hidden Mist village would become even more severe. If Konoha controlled the Land of Grass, they would gain an absolute advantage, allowing them to calmly force back the Iwagakure and Sunagakure forces, and then leisurely turn their attention to Kumogakure and the Hidden Mist. Sunagakure and Iwagakure had always been the main forces against Konoha. If they withdrew, the war would essentially be over, and the Hidden Mist would never have a chance to recover. Mei Terumi's mind raced, and she finally shook her head helplessly. We can't convince the village to act based only on our speculation. Our top priority is still to locate the Uzumaki clan member and, in the meantime, continue observing what exactly Konoha intends to do. Her decision was rational, and Keigaya Tetsu and Zabuza both agreed. But we still haven't found that Uzumaki clan member. Zabuza pounded the table, visibly annoyed. In the past few days, they had secretly monitored places like the Kusagakure prison but found no trace of the Uzumaki clan member. They couldn't figure out where Kusagakure would hide them. Kagaya Tetsu was silent for a moment, then slowly offered his suggestion. Let's go check out the Kusa village hospital. Mei Terumi asked, confused. Why the hospital? Neither she nor Zabuza had considered that location at all. Kagaya Tetsu shrugged, fabricating a reason. Maybe that Uzumaki clan member was injured and is currently receiving treatment. He was almost certain that the Uzumaki clan member in Kusagakure was Karen's mother. If that was the case, the person might genuinely be at the hospital. After all, hospitals are major users of blood. It was just that he couldn't reveal his own intelligence directly, so he had to come up with another excuse. Mei Terumi lightly touched her cheek with her index finger, then nodded moments later. Alright, we'll go check it out first thing tomorrow morning. Kagaya Tetsu's judgment had never been wrong, and she decided to trust him. Early the next morning, Kagaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi used the transformation technique to disguise themselves as a middle-aged couple and entered the Kusa village hospital. Zabuza, meanwhile, hid in the shadows nearby, ready to provide support at any moment. Just as they entered the hospital entrance, Mei Terumi noticed something was wrong. Tetsu, did you notice? She turned to ask her companion. Kagaya Tetsu nodded. Everyone here is too happy. It was unlikely for people visiting a hospital to be beaming with joy, yet in this hospital, not only the patients but even the doctors were radiating pleasant smiles. In Kagaya Tetsu's experience, doctors who could smile during work hours were rare in any world. Wait here. I'll go scout around. After Mei Terumi finished speaking, she put on a look of agony, pretending to have an upset stomach, and walked toward a doctor. She quickly returned to Kagaya Tetsu's side and whispered. There is definitely something wrong here. Just now, she had pretended to be an anxious patient and spoken to several doctors and nurses. They all reassured her not to worry, saying that the Kusa village hospital had introduced new technology, and anything short of a terminal illness, even severe injuries, could be healed quickly. But when Mei Terumi curiously asked what kind of technology it was, they all avoided eye contact and spoke vaguely, as if deliberately evading the subject. It might be related to that Uzumaki clan member. Mei Terumi voiced her thoughts. Kagaya Tetsu was completely certain that the Uzumaki clan member was definitely Karen's mother. He just didn't know if Karen had been born yet. There's an employee passage over there. Let's go in and take a look. He looked toward the distant door marked, no entry for patients. Mei Terumi was eager to try. I was thinking the same thing. Sneaking into the interior of the hospital without alerting anyone was incredibly easy for Tujanan. On the top floor of the Kusa village hospital, 7 or 8 doctors were standing in a spacious ward. This ward had the best treatment conditions in Kusagakure, with much of the equipment imported expensively from Konoha. It usually only served Kusagakure nobility. But lying on the hospital bed now was a red-haired girl about 15 or 16 years old. The white-haired dean looked down at her, showing a kind and benevolent smile. Little Kana, you fainted again just now. Are you feeling better? The Uzumaki girl named Kana quickly spoke up. I'm sorry, Dean, I'm too useless. I can keep going. As she spoke, she tried to climb out of bed, but her whole body felt weak, and she collapsed powerlessly back down. The dean made a gesture to stop her and spoke with loving concern. Little Kana, rest when you need to rest. If you exhaust yourself, Grandpa will be very heartbroken. As he spoke, he glanced at the girl's dry, red hair. Now, I'd like little Kana to tell me how her body feels. Can you do that? Uzumaki Kana nodded timidly, okay. She obediently described her current feelings, and the dean occasionally interrupted to ask for more detailed information. The surrounding doctors all held notebooks, rapidly recording the valuable data. They occasionally glanced at the red-haired girl, their eyes shining. They didn't look like they were looking at a person, but rather some kind of rare livestock. Glancing at his excited subordinates, the dean was secretly pleased. If he hadn't argued vehemently in front of the Kusa cage, this treasure would have been wasted. A month ago, Kusagakure ninja accidentally encountered a group of rogue ninja. After eliminating them, they rescued this Uzumaki girl. Fortunately, that group of rogue ninja also knew how precious Uzumaki survivors were. They were planning to take Kana to the underground exchange to sell her for a high price, so they hadn't harmed her. After Kusagakure acquired Uzumaki Kana, she was immediately sent to the Kusa village hospital for examination, and they quickly discovered the healing power contained within her blood. Initially, Kusagakure planned to use Uzumaki Kana as a blood bag to treat severely injured ninja, but the dean argued vehemently, making the Kusa Kage understand how precious the girl was. Thus, the Kusa Kage approved keeping the Uzumaki girl temporarily in the hospital for research. For the past month, the Kusa village hospital secretly studied Uzumaki Kana's constitution while simultaneously using her blood to treat patients, all to determine the full extent of the girl's potential. The results exceeded their wildest expectations. Uzumaki Kana's blood could heal almost any injury. The Kusa village hospital's reputation grew, the number of patients seeking treatment increased, and both doctors and patients were delighted. She was only a teenage girl. What kind of power would she display once she matured? The dean grew extremely excited just thinking about it. However, after a month of high-intensity blood transfusions, Uzumaki Kana now occasionally fainted. Her body had become much thinner, and her once smooth and shiny red hair was now like wild grass. Fortunately, the girl completely trusted the dean and did not refuse any requests. After Kana rested for a moment and the surrounding doctors finished their records, the dean gently asked, "Little Kana, can you continue now?" Kana felt dizzy, but she still gave a brilliant smile. "Dean Grandpa, I'm fine." With the dean's help, Uzumaki Kana slowly walked toward the blood bank again. This kind of life is already very good. She secretly cheered herself up. As a refugee whose country was destroyed and family scattered, she knew how important it was to be a useful person. She was afraid of being abandoned again, just as Konoha had abandoned the land of whirlpools back then. At least here, she could eat well and sleep well, and there were no rogue ninja fighting over her like cargo. That was already quite good. Uzumaki Kana obediently went to the blood-drawing room, and silence returned to the ward. Unnoticed by anyone, two pairs of eyes were watching from behind the louvered vent on the ceiling. After Kagaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi infiltrated via the ventilation duct, they saw the entire preceding scene. They actually treat people like livestock. Mei Terumi spoke through gritted teeth, her usually gentle voice now filled with killing intent. Kagaya Tetsu didn't speak. Truthfully, he was quite relaxed. He had originally thought Uzumaki Kana was already covered in bite wounds, but it seemed Kana hadn't lost her research value yet, so the beasts of Kusagakure hadn't abused her, and Karen hadn't even been born. But no matter what, these guys were no longer ordinary doctors, and they needed to be hit hard. From inside the narrow ventilation duct, he tilted his head slightly and asked, "Mei, what do you plan to do?" Mei Terumi took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in her chest. "We retreat first." She desperately wanted to rush out and kill all those doctors, but reason told her not to act rashly. The two quickly left. Arriving at the meeting point outside the hospital, they met Zabuza and briefly explained what they had just seen. They should be killed. Zabuza spat out two words. Even the demon of the bloody mist believed some people were worse than actual demons. Mei Terumi frowned and said, "Don't rush to kill them. The intelligence regarding the Uzumaki must be immediately reported to the village. Furthermore, there are more and more Konoha ninja here. Konoha likely has a big move planned, and the village must be informed of that too." Kagaya Tetsu looked at Zabuza and offered his suggestion. "How about Zabuza returns to the village first to report, while Mei and I stay here to constantly monitor the situation?" Both pieces of intelligence were extremely important. Using summoning animals to transmit them was too risky. A trustworthy person had to make the trip. As for what should be done next, it wasn't something their small team could decide. Zabuza showed hesitation. "If you stay here, the risk is huge." They didn't know what Konoha intended to do. If the two didn't evacuate immediately, it would be difficult to retreat later. Kagaya Tetsu laughed heartily and lightly patted Zabuza's shoulder. "Don't worry, we know what we're doing." Zabuza took a step back in disgust. "I didn't mean that I was worried about you." He stopped rambling, turned his head, and left Kusagakure. Watching his sprinting back, Mei Terumi put her hands on her hips and laughed. This guy, he's really not honest. After sighing, she quickly put away her smile. Tetsu, you must be careful these next few days. Kagaya Tetsu smiled confidently. There won't be any problems. If things got truly dire, he would expose the mayfly technique and escape right in front of Mei Terumi. On the other side of Kusagakure, two skinny old men walked down the street and also noticed the unusual atmosphere. Kusagakure is so big Konoha people harboring deceit Stupid big brother says nothing, getting flustered by my rap One of the old men muttered to himself, gesticulating wildly, occasionally attracting the attention of passers-by. The old man beside him moved his lips, his deep voice like thunder. Killer B, if you keep fooling around, I swear I'll make you wish you were dead tonight. Threatened by his big brother, Killer B immediately shut his mouth obediently. These two withered old men were none other than the AB combo using the transformation technique. Hidden Cloud Village recently received Anbu intelligence, not about the Uzumaki clan members, but saying that Konoha planned to approach the current Kusa Cage and force him to completely submit to Konoha. The Kusa Cage is a member of the Dove faction, Kusa no Mi, and he might actually comply, which Hidden Cloud Village absolutely does not want to see happen. The land of grass is in multi-party chaos, with no one currently holding an absolute advantage. The Kusagakure ninja, however, maintain a neutral stance, outwardly obeying Konoha but secretly doing the bare minimum, helping no one. If Konoha coerces the Kusa Cage and successfully occupies Kusagakure, those neutral Kusagakure forces will inevitably follow Konoha's orders, upsetting the balance of the land of grass. Once Konoha controls the land of grass, their pressure on the west will be greatly eased, and Hidden Cloud Village will be under immense pressure. The mission of the AB combo this time is to kill the Kusa Cage, allowing the situation in the land of grass to remain in chaos rather than completely leaning toward Konoha. Hidden Cloud Village loves to muddy the waters. As long as the waters are not calm, they still have a chance to win. Big brother, I've noticed many Konoha ninja have already infiltrated here. Should we act sooner? Killer B said this while stretching his shoulders, feeling uncomfortable in the guise of a little old man. I's expression was steady. Killer B, have patience. Patience. Killer B couldn't help but shiver. Once, because he was busy writing lyrics and arrived 1 minute late to the training ground, he was beaten half to death by his big brother. Just as I was telling his younger brother to be patient, someone in the Mizukage's office said something similar. Zabuza, have patience. A lavishly dressed high-ranking official sat upright, showing annoyance toward Zabuza. Zabuza gave him a cold look, and the killing intent he exuded forced the other person to shut up. He raced day and night, taking only 3 days to reach Hidden Mist Village, rushing straight to the Mizukage's office. The guarding Anbu thought he was there for an assassination and almost apprehended him on the spot. Fortunately, Genshi was coincidentally talking to the Mizukage, and upon seeing him, quickly waved him inside. Zabuza briefly relayed the intelligence regarding Kusagakure. The Mizukage immediately summoned the village's high-ranking officials for a collective discussion and had Zabuza repeat the information in front of them. It's not that I'm impatient. The situation in Kusagakure is extremely critical. Konoha could launch a surprise attack at any moment, and the Uzumaki clan members are at risk of being stolen. Mei Terumi and Kagaya Tetsu alone cannot solve the problem. We must immediately send reinforcements. Zabuza usually spoke no more than 10 words, but now he was speaking non-stop. Unfortunately, these Hidden Mist high-ranking officials merely looked at him indifferently, showing no reaction. Seeing this, Genshi cleared his throat twice and spoke. Everyone, I think Zabuza is right. Although Kusagakure is far away, we absolutely cannot sit idly by and watch Konoha take it. Konoha has already taken the land of hot springs and controls half of the coastline. If they also take the land of grass and control the west side of the continent, we will have absolutely no chance of winning. As soon as he finished speaking, the high-ranking official who had told Zabuza to be patient earlier sneered. I'd also love for the village to keep intervening in continental affairs, but how can we intervene when even the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist are gone? Someone immediately agreed. That's right. The public opinion war waged by that Kagaya brat recently has been effective, and there is panic within Konoha. We should seize this opportunity to defend our homeland and wait for the right moment. Most of those present, except for a few, showed expressions of approval. A wave of anger surged in Genshi's heart. Wait for an opportunity. How long must they wait? Hidden Mist Village looks like this today because they were afraid to commit to major undertakings and obsessed over small gains, waiting from the Second Great War until now, letting opportunities rot the longer they waited. These high-ranking officials merely want to protect themselves and are afraid of bearing the responsibility for defeat. Just as Hidden Mist was about to miss this opportunity again, Zabuza suddenly took off his outer garment, revealing objects taped to his combat vest. My lords, if you don't want to die on the battlefield, then you can die right here. Everyone was stunned. They saw his vest covered densely with exploding tags. Although many present knew water release, the speed of hand signs probably couldn't match the speed of the explosion, and many high-ranking officials were civilian staff who didn't know ninjutsu. Are you insane? Someone shouted in anger, which only drew a contemptuous smile from Zabuza. You all call me the demon of the bloody mist. Isn't it normal to be a little crazy? He had anticipated that these high-ranking officials would be unwilling to send reinforcements, so he prepared in advance. This youth had not yet become the disheartened rogue ninja of the future. His heart was still full of passion, and he desperately wanted to win this war. Kagaya Tetsu had managed to weaken Konoha. If Hidden Mist Village seized this opportunity to act, they could definitely wash away the shame of the land of hot springs. Furthermore, although he was unwilling to admit it, he didn't want those two idiots to run into any danger. Just as everyone was speechless, the Mizukage finally spoke. Zabuza, don't be so impulsive. Hearing the Mizukage's voice, Zabuza calmed down slightly. The Mizukage then scanned the crowd and chuckled. The boy is right. We should indeed take advantage of the internal unrest in Konoha and do something before they succeed. Also, I previously sent messages to the Kazekage and Tsuchikage. Once we make a move, they will follow suit. Hearing this, everyone was surprised. The Mizukage had actually contacted other villages behind their backs. It seemed he had been preparing for war all along. If that was the case, why did the Mizukage say nothing earlier? Genshi clasped his hands together in approval, but he was secretly laughing. He remembered that the Mizukage had mastered many water release without hand signs techniques, easily enough to subdue Zabuza. But the Mizukage did nothing, only waiting for Zabuza to intimidate the high-ranking officials before calmly stating his position. In this way, the Mizukage not only avoided arguing with those officials but also used Zabuza to achieve his goal, and finally successfully dissuaded Zabuza from self-destructing, earning a favor in the process. This lord is truly calculating every moment. In the evening, the Kusakage stood in front of his mansion, respectfully watching the arrival of the blonde youth. Kusakage Satohara-sama, due to the urgency of the matter, I apologize for the abrupt disturbance. Minato Namikaze walked over with a gentle smile, followed by several Konoha envoys carrying gift boxes. Satohara quickly waved his hand. It is my honor that the famous yellow flash could come. The two exchanged polite flattery before entering the residence together. Satohara chatted casually with Minato while subtly assessing the young man. Just yesterday, Konoha suddenly sent word that Minato Namikaze was preparing to visit Kusagakure on behalf of the Hokage. Konoha did not specify what Minato intended to discuss, but Satohara could guess. The future successor to the Hokage coming to see him personally was undoubtedly about the issue of alignment. He had long been prepared for this. Everyone settled down in the banquet hall. Once they had nearly finished eating, Satohara decided to preempt him and smiled at Minato. Hokage-sama sent you here because there is an important matter to discuss, correct? Minato put down his chopsticks and nodded sincerely. Yes, Hokage-sama wishes for the Konoha squad to be stationed in the land of grass to help Kusagakure jointly resist other enemies. Furthermore, Konoha has many experienced jonin who can take on the important responsibility of commanding the Kusagakure troops. What are your thoughts? Minato did not intend to hide anything and stated his purpose directly. Satohara sneered. Why does Konoha need to send troops? Haven't quite a few Konoha ninja already infiltrated Kusagakure during this time? These arrogant great nations spoke nicely, calling it, helping Kusagakure resist enemies, but it was nothing more than a desire to completely control this country. Minato scratched his head and gave an awkward smile. As expected of the Kusa Kage-sama, you found out. Satohara felt increasingly smug, thinking that the so-called yellow flash was nothing special. However, he secretly rejoiced that it was Minato Namikaze, known for his gentleness, who had come. If Danzo Shimura had come, things would have been truly tricky. Seeing that Minato seemed speechless, Satohara picked up a piece of tempura for him with his chopsticks, showing a troubled expression. Minato-sama, the land of grass is inherently a vassal of the land of fire. It is only right for Konoha to command Kusagakure, and I have no objection. But as you know, Kusagakure has long been split into two factions internally. Our grass flower faction advocates peace and respects the Hokage, but that hateful grass fruit faction is always trying to seize the Kusa Kage position and defect to Onoki, which worries me greatly. Seeing his expression of deep concern for the nation, Minato cooperatively followed up. Then, Satohara-sama, what do you think should be done? Satohara chuckled. It's easy to handle. As long as Konoha helps me eradicate the grass fruit faction, taking over Kusagakure afterward will be no problem at all. I can make this commitment on behalf of the daimyo. He named his price. Satohara knew very well that although the war had only been going on for 2 years, Konoha was holding its own against 4 enemies, and with many Kage-level experts in the village, they would eventually be the final victors. He had neither the ability nor the desire to resist Konoha. Since that was the case, he might as well sell the village for a good price and use the opportunity to eliminate those who opposed him. As for the matter of Konoha stationing troops, it wasn't a problem, it would even save Kusagakure a large sum in defense expenses. The reason Kusagakure survived various wars and stood firm for 1,000 years was precisely this mastery of playing both sides. After hearing his demand, Minato didn't seem surprised, he just signaled to the Konoha envoys. We have already prepared gifts for this visit to the Kusa Kage-sama. Several wooden gift boxes were opened, and a strong, bloody smell assaulted his nostrils. Satohara subconsciously looked inside and was terrified out of his wits. Inside were several human heads, including all the core members of the grass fruit faction. Not only that, but 2 important figures from his own grass flower faction were also staring at him with eyes wide in death. Why you guys? He stammered incoherently, trembling as he backed up 2 steps, accidentally knocking over the cups and bowls in front of him. Minato motioned for the envoys to close the wooden boxes, took a sip of tea, and slowly said. I took the liberty of dealing with everyone who opposed the Kusa Kage-sama. Please don't thank me. As for those 2 high-ranking members of your grass flower faction, the Konoha Anbu collected evidence of their collusion with the enemy, so they were punished as well. As he spoke, he pulled out several letters and politely handed them to Satohara. Satohara took them and saw that they were indeed secret documents detailing clandestine communication between his confidants and the leader of the grass fruit faction. Sweat soaked his luxurious robes, and the pride that had just filled his heart vanished completely. He finally realized that he had no right to negotiate terms with Konoha. Seeing that the timing was right, Minato also put away his gentle smile, revealing the cold, indifferent expression that had once terrified countless people. Kusa Kage-sama, do you have any other questions? Satohara quickly shook his head, none. Minato nodded with satisfaction. Then please immediately issue an order for the Kusagakure guard ninja to temporarily withdraw and allow the Konoha squad to enter. After speaking, he suddenly looked toward the Kusa village hospital. Furthermore, I heard from Anbu that you seem to have found an Uzumaki clan member. Please return her to Konoha. Since things had reached this point, Satohara could only nod desperately. Just as the 2 reached an agreement, 2 figures secretly climbed onto the roof of the Kusa village hospital again under the cover of darkness. We must take Uzumaki Kana tonight. Mei Terumi observed the activity through the skylight, speaking softly. Kagaya Tetsu had already changed into his black combat uniform and nodded. There won't be a problem. They had received urgent orders delivered by Ninja Seagull, requiring them to immediately seize Uzumaki Kana, evacuate Kusagakure, and then rendezvous with the supporting Mist Village troop. The 2 had previously seen Minato Namikaze arrive in Kusagakure. The Kusa Kage would likely hand Uzumaki Kana over to Konoha, leaving them little opportunity to act. Mei, I am better at infiltration. You stay outside and cover me. Kagaya Tetsu suggested. He was indeed better at infiltration, but more importantly, he never intended to take Uzumaki Kana back to the Hidden Mist. Given the Hidden Mist's nature, Uzumaki Kana would likely be used for experiments and as a blood bank after they acquired her. This girl had the potential to become a cage-level expert, and using her for such things would be a waste. Mei Terumi recalled his successful infiltration of the Konoha command post in the land of hot springs previously, and didn't fuss too much. Be absolutely careful. If you can't do it, retreat. Although it wasn't right to say, she genuinely cared more about Keigaya Tetsu than the mission. Keigaya Tetsu easily made his way to Uzumaki Kana's ward and saw the hospital director inside through the window. The white-haired old man stood by Kana's bed, a look of insane delight on his face. He held a huge veterinary syringe in both hands and plunged it fiercely into Uzumaki Kana's thigh. Crimson blood slowly filled the container. Uzumaki Kana's eyes were tightly shut, clearly indicating she was unconscious, but the intense pain still made her subconsciously frown. I'm sorry, little Kana. Who told Konoha to take you back? My heart aches just thinking about not being able to continue researching you. The director muttered to himself, finished drawing blood with the large syringe, and took out a second one. Earlier, he had received the Kusa Cage's order to immediately send Uzumaki Kana out of the hospital and hand her over to Konoha. He wanted to store as much of the Uzumaki girl's blood as possible, otherwise he would never get it again. Might as well extract some bone marrow too. The director licked his lips and slowly pressed the needle against Uzumaki Kana's temple. Just then, the corner of his eye caught the ward door opening, and Keigaya Tetsu walked in. You have no right to call yourself a doctor. Keigaya Tetsu pointed a finger at him, the water gun poised to strike. The director looked calm, slowly adjusted his glasses, and gave a wry smile. It seems you're not from Konoha, are you? Hey, I wonder which great village you belong to. As he spoke, he looked longingly at the red-haired girl. You people from the great villages talk about benevolence and morality, but what you do is no different from us. I violated the oath to save lives and heal the wounded long ago, so of course, I'm not qualified to be a doctor. But if I don't do this, should I just let the spoils that rightfully belong to the village be stolen by you? Should I just stand by and watch you great village people do whatever you want? The director's voice suddenly rose, like the roar of a madman. What Kusagakure cannot obtain, none of you fools shall have either. He snatched away Uzumaki Kana's blanket, revealing a dense cluster of exploding tags underneath. Seeing the exploding tags, Keigaya Tetsu understood. This guy probably never intended to hand over Uzumaki Kana from the start. He didn't want to give her to Konoha, even if it meant destroying her. The director placed his hand on the exploding tags and spoke slowly, enunciating every word. You big villages always say we are fickle, two-faced opportunists, but how else are we supposed to survive? His gloomy, hostile eyes stared down Keigaya Tetsu, and the director revealed a look of readiness to die. If you don't want to be blown up, I advise you to leave now. His original plan was to extract enough blood and brain matter, then blow up Kana, and take sole responsibility for the aftermath. These precious human materials would become the cornerstone of the village's strength, and he was willing to sacrifice everything for Kusagakure. The director wasn't afraid of death, but he was afraid that these materials would also be destroyed by the exploding tags. Keigaya Tetsu still held up his right hand, his index finger pointed at the director like a gun barrel. If you think you can do it, go ahead and try. Even if you detonate those first, I can still kill you. The director's expression hardened. Seeing that Keigaya Tetsu refused to retreat, he gritted his teeth, ready to ignite the exploding tags. Bang! A faint sound came from behind him, and instantly a mist of blood erupted, his brain cavity exposed, like Milezong. Another, Keigaya Tetsu, stood behind him, with water droplets still clinging to the tip of his right index finger. Although Keigaya Tetsu inherited the war maniac bloodline, he disliked acting rashly. Before entering, he had created a bone clone and used the mayfly technique to secretly sneak behind the director. Your pro-village speech was moving. Don't speak next time. Keigaya Tetsu commented lightly, stepped over the director's corpse, and approached Uzumaki Kana. He had long seen the golden question mark on the map. At this moment, a large golden halo emanated from the girl's lower abdomen, and Kagaya Tetsu touched it without hesitation. You touched Uzumaki Kana's stomach and received a reward, Sealing Master. Sealing Master. You now possess top-tier sealing talent. You can easily learn any sealing jutsu, and you can seal anything, except stocks that have hit their trading limit. Gold appeared. This was a bit different from what Kagaya Tetsu had expected. He thought he might get the Uzumaki bloodline or something similar, but instead, he received a very useful talent reward. It wasn't entirely surprising. He remembered that Karen could use adamantine sealing chains without much training, meaning the sealing jutsu talent of this mother and son pair was definitely top-notch. However, he didn't have any sealing jutsu scrolls on hand, so he would have to wait for an opportunity to utilize it. After receiving the reward, Kagaya Tetsu called out to the bone clone, which was about to disappear. Don't be in a hurry to leave, take this girl out. He wrapped Uzumaki Kana tightly in a quilt, making her look like a silkworm cocoon with no discernible features. The bone clone spread its hands, my chakra is almost gone. It's time for me to clock out. Kagaya Tetsu's mouth twitched. Shadow clones all have their own independent personalities, and the bone clone was no exception. It clearly had at least half its chakra remaining, yet it already wanted to slack off. He shoved Kana onto the bone clone without explanation and said earnestly. Young man, don't just look at your chakra levels. Cherish every opportunity you get to come out and train. This is all for your own good. The bone clone rolled its eyes, used the mayfly technique to take Kana away, and headed toward the location Kagaya Tetsu had specified. Kagaya Tetsu was pondering how to explain to Mei Terumi that the target was gone when he suddenly smelled something scorched. Looking closely, he saw wisps of black smoke rising from the director's corpse, and several burning exploding tags were slipping out from his collar. Kagaya Tetsu realized these were trigger-type exploding tags, the weight of the falling corpse had ignited them directly. It seemed this guy was truly determined to die. He anticipated that he wouldn't survive after destroying Kana, so he had prepared for it beforehand. Boom. The explosion caused the entire hospital building to shake violently, and countless shards of glass flew out. It's that girl's room. Several doctors who had previously participated in researching Kana heard the commotion and rushed to the doorway of the now ruined ward. Why is there? A doctor felt something underfoot. He looked down and realized they were exploding tags. The second explosion sounded, and the few who had been researching Kana all went to the Pure Land. A small parting gift. Kagaya Tetsu had long since jumped out the window and was now moving through the streets of Kusagakure, which were beginning to descend into chaos due to the explosions, unable to suppress a chuckle. Those exploding tags were left by him for the Kusa village hospital doctors. Uzumaki Kana was his future comrade, and this counted as collecting a small bit of revenge interest for her. He didn't look for Mei Terumi but instead sped toward the outskirts of Kusagakure. The two had agreed that if anything went wrong, they shouldn't meet up but head directly to the rendezvous point. Just as he rushed around a street corner, he suddenly felt a warm sensation behind him. He quickly bent down, hunched over, and performed a soul-calling style roll forward. A great fireball grazed his scalp and flew past, landing on a wooden house ahead, igniting a raging fire. Before Kagaya Tetsu could get up, he heard a soft shout near his ear. Wind release. Great breakthrough. The gale generated by the C-rank wind release roared, but instead of aiming at Kagaya Tetsu, it blew toward the burning fireball. Suddenly intensified by the wind, the flames became even more ferocious, lunging toward Kagaya Tetsu like claws and fangs. Forced back 2 steps by the fire, his ankles were suddenly gripped tightly and pulled down. His entire body sank into the ground, leaving only his head exposed. At that moment, a white-haired youth burst out of the ground in front of him, raising a short blade toward his head. Earth release. Headhunter technique. The cold, gleaming blade slashed down. Kagaya Tetsu's head was about to fall, but a white bone suddenly shot out from beneath the earth in front of him, blocking the short blade with a sharp snap. Shikatsumyuku. Kakashi Hatake, whose attack had failed, was deeply shaken, and unpleasant memories began to assault him. He remembered that among the Kirigakure ninja who had surrounded Rin Nohara, there was one who possessed the Shikatsumyuku. At that moment, his Jonin-level crisis intuition suddenly flared up. Kakashi didn't have time to think and rapidly retreated. Poof! A water bullet burst out of the soil from below, shooting toward his face. Kakashi thought the opponent's hands were buried and he couldn't form hand signs, but he hadn't anticipated this move. He quickly slammed his palm onto the ground. Earth release. Earth-style wall. The water bullet struck the thick earthen wall, leaving only a shallow dent. But he suddenly widened his eyes. Another bone bullet drilled out of the earthen wall, striking toward his chest with undiminished momentum. This thing can attack twice. Fortunately, Kakashi reacted quickly, raising his short blade to strike and deflect the bone bullet, which landed on the ground. In this flash of lightning, Kagaya Tetsu exerted force and burst out of the earth, smiling at Kakashi. As expected of the Anbu, that coordination was impressive, Kakashi. The three ninja in front of him were all wearing Konoha's signature animal masks, they were clearly Anbu. Kakashi frowned slightly, wondering how this guy knew his identity when he had only just joined the Anbu recently. As if guessing his thoughts, Kagaya Tetsu pointed at his hair. That white hair is too conspicuous. Hearing this, Kakashi and his teammates all looked awkward, though fortunately their faces were hidden by their masks. He didn't bother with further talk, giving a direct hand signal for his two teammates to jointly flank Kagaya Tetsu. Did you cause that explosion just now? Konoha was determined to take Kusagakure this time. Besides sending Minato to negotiate with the Kusa cage, Kakashi and several Anbu squads had already infiltrated the village to ascertain its true situation. The intelligence that Uzumaki Kana was hidden in the Kusa village hospital was provided by Kakashi's squad. Just now, their squad suddenly saw the Kusa village hospital explode. They rushed over in shock and quickly tracked down the fleeing Kagaya Tetsu, intending to capture him and ask what happened. Kagaya Tetsu didn't answer his question, merely looking at his earth-style wall and teasingly laughing. Your chakra control is weak, you didn't even manage to sculpt a dog head. Did you reward yourself too much after reading ICHA Paradise and weaken your body? Kakashi was both embarrassed and startled. How did this guy know about his past hobbies? But he didn't care, simply giving a quiet command. Attack. Other things don't matter, the Kirigakure ninja must die. Seeing the Kirigakure ninja, Kakashi's heart instantly ignited with boundless fighting spirit. Neither he nor his two companions took this Kirigakure brat seriously. The Hidden Mist village only engaged in underhanded activities, and most Kirigakure ninja were similar. Besides, they had a numerical advantage. It's not like they'd encounter another Jonin at 12 years old, right? Rin's face before her death transformed into a surge of resentment, pouring fiercely into his mind. He immediately unleashed his ultimate technique. Lightning release. Purple lightning. As the purple electric light flickered, Kagaya Tetsu slightly narrowed his eyes. As expected of Kakashi, he developed a lightning release substitute so quickly. After losing his Sharingan, Kakashi could no longer perfectly control Chidori, so he developed purple lightning. This ninjutsu wasn't as fast or powerful as Chidori, but its advantage lay in not requiring such high observational skills from the eyes, and it expanded the attack range. It was still a powerful S-rank ninjutsu. As Kagaya Tetsu expected, Kakashi, having lost his Sharingan, might have instead unlocked the chains that bound him. The other two Anbu members used wind release and fire release to desperately entangle him. Kakashi had only recently mastered purple lightning, and it still took a few seconds to gather this lightning power. But Kagaya Tetsu wouldn't give them that time. Dance of the Larch. The cracking sound of bones growing rang out. More than a dozen sharp bone blades protruded from all over his body. His figure spun rapidly, easily forcing back the two Anbu Chunin. Then, with a whoosh, he drew a bone blade and swiftly rushed towards Kakashi. At the same time, Kakashi's purple lightning was ready. He coldly uttered two words. Die. The lightning flashed across the street, its powerful impact tearing up the soil beneath their feet, sending blades of grass floating into the air. Before the grass landed, Kakashi placed his hand on Kagaya Tetsu's chest. Even if purple lightning wasn't as fast as Chidori, it was still not something an ordinary ninja could handle. His palm pierced through the sternum, but Kakashi didn't feel the texture of flesh and blood. With a bang, Kagaya Tetsu scattered into pieces of bone. What? Kakashi and his companions widened their eyes, a similar doubt to Orochimaru's arising in their hearts. With their perception, they hadn't even realized that the Kagaya Tetsu in front of them was a bone clone. The three couldn't help but temper their underestimation of Kagaya Tetsu. The next second, the real Kagaya Tetsu appeared from behind the three. His right bone blade was raised high, then plunged down forcefully. I love whack-a-mole. The bone blade pierced the carotid artery of the Konoha ninja who was underground. Blood splattered out like a fountain, a few drops landing on Kagaya Tetsu's lips, which he lightly licked. He declared, Tanuki. Kakashi couldn't help but cry out his companion's codename in pain. He finally realized that this Kagaya ninja had used a bone clone to entangle him just to distract them, while also making his other companion, who was lurking with Earth Release, drop his guard, and then finish him with one strike. But that teammate was a master of Earth Release. How did this guy find him? Kakashi no longer dared to underestimate his opponent. This brat was clearly the one being ambushed, yet he could calmly and decisively react, even seizing the opportunity to kill one person. It was truly terrifying. Kagaya Tetsu dealt with this Anbu member, then reached out and touched his bleeding neck. You touched Shinichi Kudo's neck and received a reward, Earth Release Chakra. A blue reward, not bad. As soon as Kagaya Tetsu engaged Kakashi, he noticed a blue question mark appear nearby. Combined with Kakashi's team only having 3 members, he guessed that the question mark was likely the lurking Anbu. It was a pity that no question mark appeared on Kakashi this time, otherwise he would have definitely tried to touch him. Kakashi fired a signal flare into the air, indicating a troublesome enemy here and requesting reinforcements. C formation. He then decisively gave the order. The 3 quickly spread out, focusing their long-range ninjutsu on Kagaya Tetsu. He could tell this brat was also a Jonin, with insidious and cunning methods. Close combat was too risky, so it was better to use a kiting strategy. The Kagaya clan's weakness was well known, mindless brutes who only excelled in close combat. Occasionally, some would fire bone bullets or bone spikes, but they weren't fast and their lethality was limited, making them easy to avoid. This guy can fire water gun, be careful to dodge. Kakashi recalled Kagaya Tetsu's previous attack and quickly reminded them. No sooner had he spoken than Kagaya Tetsu extended both hands. Thousand bone chaotic rain. Whizzing sounds echoed one after another. Water guns containing bone bullets shot out, and Kakashi inwardly thought, this is bad. This speed was clearly faster than ordinary bone bullets, and much faster than what Kagaya Tetsu had just used. His mind raced, guessing that this guy had deliberately slowed down his firing speed when he was underground, making them drop their guard before unleashing his full power. How can this Kirigakure ninja be so evil? Kakashi cursed inwardly. His 2 companions had already been hit in the torso, blooming into vivid blood flowers. It was their first time encountering a Kagaya ninja so skilled in long-range attacks. Caught off guard, they were both riddled with holes. Kakashi's eyes were bloodshot. Again, he watched helplessly as 2 companions were killed by a Kirigakure ninja. Just as he was consumed by anger and lost his focus, a water gun bone bullet flew towards him. He quickly dodged sideways, narrowly avoiding the attack, but his mask was grazed, shattering into pieces and revealing his handsome face underneath. Oh, I heard you seemingly had a Sharingan transplanted, how did it disappear? Kagaya Tetsu saw the ordinary eyes in Kakashi's eye sockets and deliberately delivered a critical blow. Kakashi was a very troublesome opponent, no weaker than himself. It would be difficult to determine a winner through combat alone. Moreover, Kakashi had already fired a signal flare. Continuing to drag this out would be very disadvantageous for him. It would be interesting if Minato arrived. He hated Minato the most. So, Kagaya Tetsu decided to deal with Kakashi using other means. Kakashi instantly broke down, his rage almost consuming him. Losing his best friend's eye was a lifelong pain for him, and this guy had precisely stepped on his landmine. I'll kill you. He abandoned all defense, brandishing his short blade in wide, sweeping attacks. Kagaya Tetsu was prepared, gripping his bone blade and meeting the attack. After only a few exchanges, Kakashi noticed something was wrong. This Kirigakure brat seemed to be using the White Fang blade technique. It's not good to be distracted during a blade technique duel, you know. Kagaya Tetsu chuckled. The tip of his blade, like a suddenly striking venomous snake, thrust out from an unusual angle, grazing Kakashi's face. Kakashi quickly retreated a few meters, reaching up to wipe the blood from his face, his mind greatly shaken. There was no mistake. When his father was still alive, he would practice blade techniques with him whenever he had free time. Although this Kagaya ninja's blade technique wasn't particularly refined, those unpredictable slashes were definitely the White Fang blade technique. Where did you learn that blade technique? Kakashi demanded sharply. The White Fang blade technique was his father's unique creation. No one else knew it besides him and his father. Hearing this, Kagaya Tetsu suddenly lowered his bone blade and, imitating Darth Vader's tone, said, "I am your father. Kakashi's best friend." Kagaya Tetsu added the latter half of the sentence. Kakashi's mind buzzed, and he suddenly felt his throat go dry. His father was very busy with missions, and the limited time he had was spent with him. He had almost no friends, let alone a best friend. He steadied himself and angrily retorted, "You're lying. How could someone your age be friends with my father?" This guy looked about his age, also 12. There was no way he could have any connection with his father. Kagaya Tetsu smiled bitterly. "I understand why you don't believe me, but due to some coincidences, I did become Lord Tsukumo's best friend. He taught me this White Fang blade technique. And this too." He clasped his hands together, his index and middle fingers pressed tightly, revealing a slightly lewd gesture. Then he moved his lips. 1,000 years of death. He and Kakashi simultaneously shouted the name of this move. Kakashi could no longer hold back. This was a so-called ninjutsu his father invented when they were playing around. Because it was somewhat embarrassing, only the father and son knew about it. Kagaya Tetsu saw Kakashi's wide-open mouth and knew he had gambled correctly. This move wouldn't truly become famous until Kakashi became Naruto's teacher. Before that, no one should have known about it. After revealing this move, no matter how absurd Kakashi found it, he had to believe Kagaya Tetsu's words to some extent. "You that Kagaya Tetsu?" Kakashi asked with a trembling voice. He had always found this guy somewhat familiar. Only then did he recall that after the Land of Hot Springs battle, he had seen intelligence gathered by the Anbu, which included a photo of Kagaya Tetsu. Kagaya Tetsu looked at him with gentle eyes and softly said, "Kakashi, who I am isn't important. You just need to know that your father died unjustly. He wasn't the waste that the Konoha people called him." Hearing these words, it was like a dying man in a desert suddenly encountering a clear spring. Kakashi's eyes quickly welled up with moisture. He remembered The Godfather movie that was released earlier, which seemed to allude to his father's suicide. Could that movie be related to this guy? When Kakashi looked up again, he found that the other party had already disappeared. Something's happened. Minato Namikaze was staying in the inn arranged for them, clenching his fist as he watched the red signal flare ascend into the sky. The red signal flare belonged to Kakashi's squad, meaning they had encountered a troublesome enemy. If even Kakashi found them troublesome, what kind of guys could they be? Connecting it to the explosion heard earlier from the Kusa village hospital, Minato had a bad feeling. Just then, two young Konoha ninja ran in. Both of them had striking appearances. One was over 2 meters tall, with thick, muscular build, standing like a small mountain. The other wore sunglasses and was slender, but the large yellow dog beside him was awe-inspiring. They were Minato's new teammates, Akamichi Dodo and Inuzuka Sume. Akamichi Dodo slammed his thick iron staff down, frowning as he said, "Captain Minato, the street is in chaos due to the explosion. I went to the hospital, but I didn't find any trace of the Uzumaki girl." Inuzuka Sume stroked the big yellow dog's head and continued. Furin smelled many foreign village ninja, quite a few of whom are cloud-hidden ninja. Furin barked twice, expressing extreme dissatisfaction with the sweaty smell emanating from the cloud-hidden ninja. After hearing the 2 pieces of bad news, Minato didn't panic and handed his companions 2 cups of water. "Catch your breath first." While his teammates rested, he closed his eyes slightly and began to think. According to the Kusa cage, the Uzumaki girl was placed in the Kusa village hospital. Now the hospital has exploded, and the target is missing. She was either killed in the explosion or taken away, and they don't even know who the attackers are. But that wasn't the most urgent matter. The enemy village ninja who infiltrated Kusagakure, especially the cloud-hidden ninja, were the real big trouble. It was still normal for Sunagakure and Iwagakure people to infiltrate here, as they were close by, but for those barbarians from the north to come all this way, Minato suspected they had big plans too. Now that Konoha had just reached an agreement with the Kusa cage, and the land of grass was within reach, no mistakes could be made. Dodo, Sume, immediately take men to where Kakashi fired the signal flare. I'll go to the Kusa cage's mansion. In an instant, Minato had made his decision. No matter how bad the situation, the Kusa cage's side had to be stabilized, otherwise all of Konoha's arrangements would go to waste. He called another messenger ninja. Immediately inform Lord Fugaku to stop waiting and immediately lead the army into Kusagakure to eliminate all enemy village personnel. While Minato was negotiating with the Kusa cage, the Konoha squad led by Uchiha Fugaku had already arrived outside Kusagakure, waiting for Minato's command to enter. Logically, he should have followed procedure, reported to the Kusa cage, and then let Fugaku in, but given the urgency, he couldn't afford to worry about that now. Kusagakure absolutely could not fall into chaos. After the messenger ninja left, the three split up. Minato reached the Kusa cage's mansion in less than a minute. Thankfully, there's no problem. Seeing the two guard ninja at the entrance safe and sound, Minato breathed a sigh of relief. Just as he was about to enter, a few strands of his golden hair suddenly swayed. Minato didn't hesitate and immediately retreated dozens of meters. With a thunderous crash, a giant rock fell from the sky, crushing the two gate-guarding ninja into pulp, and shattered rock fragments splattered everywhere. If Minato hadn't dodged in advance, he would probably have been hit by the giant rock by now. Yo tilde your speed is exaggerated tilde your evasion shows no panic tilde but before me and big brother, you can only suffer tilde. Hearing this strange rap, Minato knew who had arrived without even looking. I didn't expect it to be these two guys. Minato shook his head helplessly, looking in the direction the giant rock had come from. Killer Bee was carrying another giant rock, leisurely rapping new lyrics, while stood beside him with his arms crossed, showing Minato a chilling white grin. Long time no see, Minato namikaze. Minato had already pulled out a flying thunder god kunai, coldly glaring at them. The hospital explosion, was it your doing? A looked insulted, huh? I wouldn't bother with such a small-scale scene. He didn't hide anything, pointing his thick, dark finger towards the Kusa cage's mansion. My target is inside. Minato's heart sank. No wonder the ab combo came personally. It seemed that Hidden Cloud Village had also guessed Konoha's intentions and planned to directly eliminate the moderate Kusa cage, plunging Kusagakure into a leaderless situation. If they succeeded, it would be very difficult for Konoha to control this place again. You'll have to get past me first. Before Minato finished speaking, his trident-shaped kunai had already flown out. He believed it, he believed it. Kagaya Tetsu sprinted through the chaotic Kusagakure, finding it amusing to think of Kakashi being so easily fooled. After shaking off Kakashi, he rushed non-stop to the rendezvous point and was almost there. Just then, he suddenly heard panting sounds from behind him. He turned his head and saw a yellow dog, the size of a calf, following him. Ninken. As the thought crossed his mind, the yellow Ninken pushed off its hind legs and pounced. Kagaya Tetsu immediately slashed with his bone blade. The yellow dog opened its steel-like jaws and bit down hard. With a crack, the hard bone blade snapped. These teeth are even harder than a Japanese head. Kagaya Tetsu mumbled, then kicked up his right leg, sending the yellow dog flying and seizing the opportunity to create distance. During this brief delay, more than 10 Konoha ninja had already arrived. You're that Kagaya Tetsu. Seeing the shattered bones on the ground, Inuzuka Sume was a little surprised. He had followed Furin, tracking the scent all the way, and unexpectedly ran into the brat who had made Uchiha Shisui look bad. It seems I'm quite famous in your Konoha, huh? Kagaya Tetsu glanced at the Konoha ninja surrounding him, secretly preparing for battle. Akamichi Dodo rested his iron staff on his shoulder, arrogantly lifting his chin. Brat, surrender. This is not a place for your Hidden Mist village to meddle. In the eyes of these Konoha elites, Hidden Mist was about as insignificant as a roadside dog. As for the Land of Hot Springs incident, everyone thought it was just good luck for that brat, coupled with the incompetence of the Uchiha, that allowed Hidden Mist Village to gain a small advantage. Facing two elite Jonin simultaneously, Kagaya Tetsu had no intention of fighting head-on. He quickly formed hand signs, early fern dance. A forest of white bones suddenly grew, and the Konoha ninja exclaimed as they scattered and fled. They had heard of this secret technique of the Kagaya clan, but only when facing it up close did they realize how terrifying it truly was. Kagaya Tetsu, taking advantage of the enemy's distraction, approached a white bone and quickly merged his body with it. Besides being a divine technique for clearing out cannon fodder, the early fern dance also had the benefit of allowing him to merge with bones and move secretly within the bone forest. Kimimaro almost used this move to kill Gaara. As long as he used this bone forest, he could escape the encirclement, completely unnoticed. Holy cow! Kagaya Tetsu couldn't help but exclaim. A giant foot stomped heavily into the bone forest, and those sharp, terrifying bone spurs were crushed to powder as easily as if they were made of sponge. This big foot is too impressive. Even Sister Yu's looks delicate and cute in comparison. He looked up and saw Akamichi Dodo, who had used the partial expansion jutsu, transforming into a giant over 10 meters tall, looking down at the earth. Boring tricks, only good for bullying small villages. Akamichi Dodo snorted coldly, casually stirring his feet a few times, and most of the bone forest was instantly crushed. The Akamichi clan was already tough-skinned, and with the powerful regenerative ability brought by Yang-release chakra, the hardness of these bones couldn't even scratch them. Kagaya Tetsu didn't dare to continue hiding inside the bones and reappeared before the Konoha ninja, gritting his teeth, ready to clash head-on. He temporarily didn't plan to use the mayfly technique. The mayfly technique only allowed him to dive underground, not become transparent like Kamui. With the abilities of Inuzuka Sume and Akamichi Dodo, it would be easy to find him underground. He had already used the mayfly technique once to rescue Uzumaki Kana. Using it again would consume a tremendous amount of chakra, and if it failed, there would be no other chance. Just as he was in a dilemma, a sweet shout came from not far away. Kagaya Tetsu, you really can't do anything without your sister. He turned his head and saw Mei Terumi standing there, smiling radiantly. Water release. Water severing wave. Mei Terumi started with an A-rank water release. A clear, straight jet of water shot out from her mouth, transforming into a water blade that could cut through rock, sweeping across the area. Looks like a Mazutsune. Kagaya Tetsu thought. Mei Terumi didn't know someone thought she resembled a monster. She used a powerful water jet to force back the Konoha ninja. Even Akamichi Dodo didn't dare to touch it with his feet and quickly jumped backward. Seeing Mei Terumi appear, Kagaya Tetsu was about to speak, but she interrupted him with a gesture. Don't say those clichés like, you run first, you'll only drag me down here. I know whether I'll be a burden or not. Mei Terumi put her hands on her hips, looking like she wouldn't listen to advice. She had already reached the rendezvous point, but seeing that Kagaya Tetsu hadn't appeared yet, she guessed something had happened and rushed over. Mei Terumi was confident in her strength and would never be a burden, so no matter what Kagaya Tetsu said, she wouldn't leave. Kagaya Tetsu pointed to her hair. I just wanted to say, there's bird poop on it. Mei Terumi was shocked. For a girl who cared about her appearance, this was nothing short of a thunderbolt. Had she been too busy rushing to notice? But then Kagaya Tetsu smiled. Just kidding. Thanks, Mei. He had indeed intended to persuade Mei Terumi to leave first, but seeing her determined eyes, he felt it would be disrespectful to the girl. Are you crazy? Mei Terumi's small face flushed with anger. As expected of the Kagaya brute, he still had the mind to joke at a time like this. You brat, how dare you underestimate us like that? Seeing the two chatting, Akamichi Dodo's anger flared. Inuzuka Sume pushed up his sunglasses, the other one should be Mei Terumi. I didn't expect to encounter two geniuses from the Hidden Mist Village at the same time. Furin, we'll each take one, let's deal with them. The Konoha ninja attacked again. About 10 miles from this battlefield, a Konoha squad of over 1,000 people had also arrived. Uchiha Fugaku stood in the main camp, frowning at the black smoke rising from Kusagakure. Something's happened. He was anxious. As the commander-in-chief of this Konoha squad, Fugaku had led his men to secretly enter the land of grass last night, then set up camp here, waiting for Minato's news. Looking at the situation now, there should be a problem on Minato's side, but Fugaku was unsure whether to directly lead his men to charge in. If the problem wasn't serious, and Minato and the Kusa Cage had reached a treaty for the peaceful takeover of Kusagakure, then he couldn't rashly enter the village. Otherwise, what would others think? They might assume the Uchiha were eager to steal Minato's thunder. Fugaku was a deeply thoughtful person, and after much deliberation, he still hadn't made up his mind. At this moment, a messenger ninja rushed over, informing him of Minato's arrangements. After listening, Fugaku's heart felt at ease instead. Minato said that the Uzumaki girl was missing, and Kumogakure ninja had infiltrated Kusagakure. The situation was very critical, and Fugaku needed to immediately bring his men to support, eliminate all ninja except Konoha and Kusagakure, and stabilize the situation. Fugaku immediately gathered several Uchiha Jonin to assign tasks. Shisui, you're fast. Immediately take your men to find Lord Minato and provide assistance. Uchiha Shisui bowed. Yes. Fugaku continued. I will lead the main force to surround Kusagakure, and then push inward, eliminating all hostile forces in one fell swoop. He slammed his fist on the table, even revealing his 3-tomo Sharingan. This operation was extremely important to the Uchiha. The Godfather, and the investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement, had plunged the clan into a storm of public opinion, and the villagers' suspicions of them grew. Moreover, he really wanted to leave a good impression on Minato, as the latter was a strong candidate for the next Hokage and had a good relationship with the Uchiha. So Fugaku had brought Shisui this time, determined to win a beautiful victory. Everyone left after receiving their orders. Fugaku was also about to leave when someone tugged at his sleeve. Father, please let me go too. Uchiha Itachi, with a childish face, exuded the killing intent only found in the clan's elites. A warm current immediately surged through Fugaku's heart. He extended 2 fingers and lightly tapped his son's forehead. Sorry, Itachi, next time. This kind of battlefield was not for a 4-year-old child. Itachi rubbed his forehead, watching his father's hurried departure, and clenched his fists. Kusagakure had turned into a sea of fire. The Konoha squad, well prepared, easily surrounded the village and launched a fierce offensive. The Anbu had thoroughly investigated the area long ago, and much information about enemy village ninja was known to Konoha. The Konoha squad entering the village immediately began efficient killing. The ninja who had infiltrated earlier didn't expect Konoha to make such a big move this time. Seeing the Konoha ninja charging like wolves and tigers, some immediately gave a French military salute, while others scattered and fled. A Sunagakure ninja ran into an alley, and 3 or 4 Konoha ninja immediately rushed in, followed by screams. It's like a running man race. Seeing the scene before him, an inspiring piece of music inexplicably played in Kagaya Tetsu's mind. But Kagaya Tetsu had no time for others at the moment. He and Maid Terumi were fighting and retreating through the village, unable to relax for a second. The Konoha ninja behind them pursued relentlessly. The mountain-like Akamichi Dodo exuded immense pressure. Every step he took made the ground tremble. A gentle sweep of his huge iron club shattered large sections of houses like toys, scattering them everywhere. Several times, the two almost got hit, but fortunately, they covered each other and avoided being crushed into paste. Inuzuka Sume was also very annoying. His and his large yellow dog's noses were incredibly sensitive. No matter how chaotic Kusagakure was, and no matter how the two hid, this man and dog could always easily find their location. Kagaya Tetsu sighed inwardly. Just 2 second or third-rate Konoha powerhouses had cornered him and Maid Terumi. No wonder Konoha constantly courted disaster internally yet still maintained its status as the ninja world's largest village. Boom. Akamichi Dodo's iron club slammed down again. The two were slightly slow to dodge and were directly blown away by the strong wind generated by the impact. Kagaya Tetsu quickly stabilized himself after landing, hiding behind a pile of rubble and gasping for breath. He felt a stinging sensation in his eyes, a precursor to the awakening of the Sharingan, but perhaps because the emotional stimulation wasn't strong enough, the Sharingan remained in a nearly open state, like playing edge play. Kagaya Tetsu wondered, if this life and death stimulation wasn't enough, did he have to listen to my hometown in northeast China 1,000 times? However, awakening a one-tomo Sharingan wouldn't help him much at the moment either. Use 8 gates. The beginner level 8 gates could only open 4 gates, which would probably at most scratch Akamichi Dodo's skin. Dance of Thunder and Fire. With this height difference, at most, it would cut off 2 of Akamichi Dodo's toes. After pondering for a moment, he exhaled lightly and said to Mei Terumi. Mei, we must deal with these guys first. Mei Terumi wiped the dust from her face. You have a plan. She also knew that running like this wasn't a solution, but she couldn't think of a way to shake off the Konoha pursuers. Keigaya Tetsu rolled his eyes. Can you use skilled mist technique again? But the coverage needs to be larger. Mei Terumi frowned. But we tried it just now, and the skilled mist technique was ineffective against that guy. She had only recently developed this high-temperature acidic mist, and it was far from reaching the level where it could melt Susanoo in the future. She had spat out boiling mist several times just now, but it only killed a few unsuspecting Konoha ninja. As for Akamichi Dodo, he merely frowned when his feet touched it, his skin wasn't even broken. Keigaya Tetsu said confidently. No need to cause damage, just attract his attention. He told Mei Terumi his battle plan, and Mei Terumi's face instantly turned bright red. Just do as you say. She patted her cheeks, ready. The two rushed out from behind the ruins simultaneously. Shikatsumyaku. Thousand Bone Chaotic Rain. Water Release. Water Severing Wave. As if making a final desperate struggle, both used powerful offensive ninjutsu, but Akamichi Dodo blocked in front of his companions a step ahead. These attacks only left shallow marks on the huge steel plate with the character, "Food, Eat," on it. Under the cover of the attack, the two successfully penetrated to within a few meters of Akamichi Dodo. Boil Release. Skilled Mist Technique. Mei Terumi forcefully exhaled, and high-temperature acidic mist spread forward in a semicircle, instantly forming a mist wall 5 to 6 meters high and more than 10 meters wide. After doing all this, the two turned and ran. Even knowing it's useless, you still won't give up. Akamichi Dodo snorted coldly. Boil Release didn't harm him much, but it was quite painful when it touched his toes. He didn't want to charge through directly, nor did he want to go around the mist wall, which was over 10 meters wide, to pursue. So he moved sideways like a crab, lifted his right leg high, intending to step directly over the mist wall. As for his other companions, they could wait for the mist to dissipate before pursuing. The moment he lifted his right leg, his lower body was wide open. Keigaya Tetsu, who was running, suddenly stopped, turned around, and extended his 10 fingers. Thousand Bone Chaotic Rain. Hundreds of water gun bone bullets flew out densely, accurately hitting Akamichi Dodo's most vulnerable spot. Ah! His wail echoed throughout Kusagakure. Facts proved that no man could withstand an explosive strike. Akamichi Dodo's staff flew from his grasp, and he tightly covered the injured area with both hands, his miserable shriek echoing through the sky, making everyone's heads buzz. As a lady of the hidden mist, Mei Terumi clearly disliked such a scene, immediately covering her face with her small hand, yet 2 sharp glints shot out from her emerald eyes through the gaps between her fingers. Is it that painful? It doesn't look like he's bleeding. She commented. It is difficult for people to imagine things they do not possess, and Mei Terumi was no exception. Keigaya Tetsu felt his legs tighten upon hearing this, thinking that this woman seemed a bit extreme. Akamichi Dodo, having suffered the heavy blow, rapidly shrunk. The towering giant disappeared, and Keigaya Tetsu breathed a sigh of relief. He had been searching for Akamichi Dodo's weakness, but unfortunately, Akamichi Dodo was no fool. He had kept his eyes in similar areas well protected, leaving Keigaya Tetsu with no way to strike. Until he glanced at that spot, he decisively had Mei Terumi cooperate with him to deliver the critical hit. This strike was unexpected by everyone. The other Konoha ninja were stunned, momentarily freezing in place instead of rushing forward. Keigaya Tetsu didn't waste the opportunity, using the body flicker technique to arrive next to the iron staff Akamichi Dodo had dropped, and touched it. You touched Akamichi Dodo's iron staff and received a reward, Yang-style chakra. Keigaya Tetsu was not surprised, it was indeed this. Yang-style chakra is relatively rare throughout the ninja world, representing life force, and is only possessed by the Uzumaki clan and certain medical ninja. Keigaya Tetsu seriously suspected that the reason the first Hokage's wood release could move mountains and fill seas, while Yamato's wood release could only manage a 3-bedroom apartment, was likely due to the difference in yang release. Now that he had acquired yang-style chakra, if he managed to get wood release later, it would surely be easier to use, right? Getting off track. Keigaya Tetsu saw that the Konoha ninja had recovered their senses and were starting to counterattack with faces full of grief and indignation. Wind release ninjutsu were spat out one after another, quickly dispersing the mist wall. Inazuka Sume, accompanied by his ninkin, rushed forward first. Keigaya Tetsu could clearly see the drool dripping from the dog's mouth. May, use the hidden mist technique together. After speaking, he formed hand seals first, and a large expanse of dense mist quickly rose. Mei Terumi was already prepared, knowing that the second phase of Keigaya Tetsu's battle plan was about to begin, and immediately took action. The mist generated by the two hidden mist Jonin was overwhelming, rapidly enveloping a large surrounding area. The Konoha pursuers tried to use wind release to disperse it, but found that the scattered white mist quickly swept back in, achieving little effect. Unlike the previous skillful mist technique, the hidden mist technique produced an aerosol composed of tiny liquid droplets, spreading throughout the air with extremely high density. Furthermore, since it was produced by two Jonin, it was even harder to deal with. Several miserable cries from comrades nearby indicated that a few Konoha ninja had been ambushed. Inazuka Sume remained calm, gently stroking the dog's head. Furin, did you catch that guy's scent? The large yellow dog barked twice and led him to pounce in one direction. In front of the Inazuka clan, this dense fog was virtually useless. Woof! Furin roared, signaling that the target was close, and Inazuka Sume also spotted Keigaya Tetsu's figure, decisively making his move. Fang over fang. The man and dog transformed into two whirlwinds, furiously drilling forward. Bang! The figure dissipated, turning into white bones scattered across the ground. A clone made of bones. Inazuka Sume had never seen such a thing and immediately broke out in a cold sweat. Just then, a soft shout came from behind him. Dance of thunder and fire. The man and dog whirled around, seeing Keigaya Tetsu right behind them, holding a bone blade. Red and blue intertwined on the snow-white bone blade, electricity flashed and sparks rose, creating a peculiar sense of beauty. Inazuka Sume was greatly surprised. How could he and Furin's sense of smell have failed to detect this guy coming up behind them? Upon closer inspection, he suddenly realized. Keigaya Tetsu's clothes were covered in blood, but it wasn't his own, it belonged to the Konoha ninja who had just been killed. This guy actually used the blood of Konoha ninja to mask his own scent. The usually calm Inazuka Sume finally erupted in rage, just about to lead Furin to tear this guy apart, but Keigaya Tetsu had already moved. Swish! Thunder and fire intertwined, erupting with immense destructive power. Even the surrounding air currents were heated until they were scorching. Inazuka Sume and his ninkin only saw a flash of light before knowing nothing else. The man and dog fell to the ground, charred black, turning into two cooked corpses. Keigaya Tetsu touched the dog's head, which smelled of roasted meat. You touched Inazuka Sume's dog and received a reward. Chakra amount plus 0.5. Having acquired Inazuka Sume's chakra, his total chakra volume finally surpassed 10, reaching cage level standard. Well, the most ordinary kind of cage level, similar to Kakashi. In other words, his chakra volume finally reached the level of 1 Ka. At this moment, the dense mist dispersed. The Konoha pursuers saw the miserably killed Inazuka Jonin, their faces filled with terror. They clearly held the advantage, yet in just a few minutes, Akamichi Dodo was severely injured and Inazuka Sume was killed in action. Those were Jonin belonging to Minato's squad. They, as civilian Chunin, were even less of a match. Keigaya Tetsu shouted to them. Retreat. Why risk your lives for a monthly salary of 3,000 ryo? He and Mei Terumi were also at the end of their rope. Avoiding a fight would be best. Just as the Konoha ninja wavered, a furious shout rang out. No retreating. Everyone looked over and saw 7 or 8 red-eyed people rushing towards them. Mei Terumi spoke in astonishment, not expecting the Uchiha to have joined the battlefield. With a few quick movements, several Uchiha Chunin surrounded them, and the situation, which had just improved, rapidly took a turn for the worse. Uchiha Tekka glared with his two-tomo Sharingan at the civilian ninja who were attempting to flee. Just 2 Jonin died, and you're already starting to panic. He questioned them coldly. He arrived just in time to see Kagaya Tetsu attacking Inuzuka Sume, but unfortunately, it was too late to help, and Inuzuka Sume died. Seeing the trembling civilian ninja, he was furious. When a comrade died, they should immediately retaliate. What good was fear? The other Uchiha also looked disdainfully at the survivors, thinking to themselves that civilians were just civilians, they couldn't handle it if the enemy was slightly stronger. Those Konoha ninja were stung by their gazes. Normally in the village, the Uchiha liked to look at people with such hateful eyes. Now, they had just witnessed the tragic defeat of 2 squad-leading Jonin, and the Uchiha, as comrades, offered no comfort. Instead, they continued to look at them with that same expression. What did he mean by, just 2 Jonin died? Hadn't they risked their lives? The joy they had felt moments ago due to the arrival of Uchiha reinforcements instantly turned into wrath filled with resentment. This scene did not escape Kagaya Tetsu's eyes. He quickly glanced at the civilian ninja's expressions and smiled at Uchiha Tekka. You must be Uchiha clan members, right? This spirit and vigor are indeed very different from those civilian wastes. The Uchiha clan loved to put on airs, even more than Hiriko's large stomach could hold. Threatening them was useless, but praising them was absolutely effective, and the more the praise came from an enemy, the more effective it was. Sure enough, as soon as these words were spoken, several Uchiha ninja couldn't help but reveal smug expressions, while the Konoha ninja clenched their fists even tighter. Kagaya Tetsu continued. I'm not targeting anyone, but everyone here, except the Uchiha, is trash. Brat, you must be Kagaya Tetsu. At least you're lucid. Hearing Kagaya Tetsu's words, Uchiha Tekka couldn't suppress the smirk at the corner of his mouth. He knew Kagaya Tetsu was the fellow who had forced Shisui to retreat in the land of hot springs. Although Uchiha Tekka thought it was just luck, showing such potential at age 12 was barely enough to qualify him as a genius. Being praised like this by a genius from an enemy village in front of other Konoha ninja, the Uchiha members felt quite satisfied. Normally, they were despised and suppressed within the village, but now that Akamichi Doto and Inuzuka Sume had been defeated, it was clear that the Uchiha were needed to save the day at the crucial moment. As for the hostile glances from their surrounding teammates, they paid no attention. Uchiha Tekka pointed his short blade at Kagaya Tetsu. Surrender. Despite his satisfaction, Uchiha Tekka hadn't lost his mind. His priority was still dealing with these 2 individuals. He planned to capture both Kagaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi alive simultaneously, as that would truly demonstrate the strength of the Uchiha. If Kagaya Tetsu stubbornly resisted, that was fine, they would just kill him. They had over 20 people, and the opponents only had 2. No matter what, the advantage was theirs. Out of the corner of his eye, Kagaya Tetsu noticed Mei Terumi secretly giving him a hand signal, meaning, prepare to break through. Mei Terumi didn't say anything like, you go first. Both of them clearly understood that they couldn't abandon each other and leave alone. Kagaya Tetsu wasn't in a hurry to act, and instead said something unexpected to Tekka. Join the Hidden Mist Village. Huh. Uchiha Tekka was completely baffled. Was this guy crazy? Even Mei Terumi looked at him with confusion. Kagaya Tetsu, however, continued seriously. I heard that Konoha internally looks down on the Uchiha, and it seems they've even started suspecting you because of some film of unknown origin. The Uchiha bled and sweat for the village, yet they are constantly suppressed. It is truly regrettable. I guarantee you, we don't have that kind of discrimination in the Hidden Mist Village. As long as you bring your comrades and join, we will absolutely give you treatment far exceeding what you get in Konoha. This was a lie. Given the extent of internal strife in the Hidden Mist Village, if the Uchiha truly dared to join, they would probably have their eyes gouged out immediately. Several Uchiha ninja clenched their teeth, feeling a surge of resentment. Joining the Hidden Mist Village was naturally out of the question, but what angered them was that the village's hostility toward them had actually reached the ears of the Hidden Mist. They were a proud great clan, constantly striving to maintain their prestige, yet even a brat knew they were being suppressed by their own people. Their sense of shame instantly peaked. Uchiha Tekka's fury toward Konoha suddenly flared up, and he could only vent it onto Kagaya Tetsu. Brat, You will regret running your mouth. He couldn't be bothered to persuade them to surrender anymore. He immediately activated his 3-tomo Sharingan, intending to trap Kagaya Tetsu in a terrifying genjutsu. But something that utterly astonished him happened. Kagaya Tetsu calmly raised both hands, seemingly completely unaffected. Thousand-bone chaotic rain. He had deliberately provoked Uchiha Tekka with words, waiting for the opponent to use the Sharingan, and then striking the moment the Uchiha ninja were stunned. Bone bullets carried fierce wind as they rushed toward him. Uchiha Tekka didn't have time to think and awkwardly rolled sideways. The few Uchiha beside him groaned. Although they all managed to dodge, they still sustained several injuries. They all felt like they were dreaming. Captain Tekka had clearly used his Sharingan on the brat, and Mei Terumi hadn't made a sign to dispel genjutsu. How could the brat be completely unresponsive? It wasn't their fault they hadn't gathered enough intelligence. Shisui, in order to conceal his Mangekyo, had deliberately hidden the fact that Kagaya Tetsu was immune to genjutsu. The moment Kagaya Tetsu moved, Mei Terumi acted in perfect coordination. Water release. Great waterfall technique. Majestic chakra condensed into countless water molecules, forming a spectacular waterfall out of thin air, which Mei Terumi forcefully expelled onto the Uchiha ninja. Uchiha Tekka quickly retaliated with fire release. Unfortunately, Mei Terumi's water release mastery far surpassed that of an average ninja, and water naturally countered fire, instantly soaking him completely. The failure of the Sharingan severely damaged the morale of the Uchiha. They hurriedly fought back, only to hear Kagaya Tetsu's voice. Are you willing to be the Hokage's dogs for the rest of your lives? Uchiha Tekka roared as he swung his blade down. Nonsense. The Uchiha are not the Hokage's dogs. Hearing those words, the other Konoha ninja felt uneasy. They were already dissatisfied with the Uchiha's arrogance, and hearing him speak disrespectfully about Hokage-sama now intensified the resentment in their hearts. Furthermore, judging by Uchiha Tekka's implication, if the Uchiha didn't want to be dogs, did that mean the rest of them were dogs? They had originally intended to assist the Uchiha in the fight, but after hearing this, they all quietly took a few steps back. The fight ended quickly. Uchiha Tekka and the others were already mentally shaken, and Kagaya Tetsu and Mei Terumi's strength exceeded theirs, so they were soon defeated. Kagaya Tetsu seized an opening, and with a thud, a bone blade pierced Uchiha Tekka's lower abdomen. He did not stab further, but instead pulled out the bone blade, gave Mei Terumi a look, and the two walked away triumphantly. Why aren't you attacking? Or you wooden dolls? Hurry and chase them. Uchiha Tekka shouted loudly at the civilian ninja. The few Uchiha had all sustained serious injuries and were unable to continue the pursuit. A Chunin captain looked at him mockingly. Aren't you Uchiha the strongest in Konoha? You shouldn't need us useless scrubs, right? Uchiha Tekka froze, finally realizing their resentment, and quickly roared in rebuke. Fools! That brat is using a scheme of alienation against us. Can't you see that? The Chunin captain sneered. What he said might be false, but just now, he clearly could have killed you, yet he deliberately avoided vital points and chose to let you go. That's not false, is it? Uchiha Tekka was speechless for a moment, and a chill ran down his spine. Previously in the land of hot springs, Kagaya Tetsu had also deliberately spared an Uchiha squad, even claiming he wouldn't kill Uchiha, which caused great controversy for the Uchiha, leading many to suspect they were colluding with the Hidden Mist village. He never expected such a thing to happen to him. After speaking, the Chunin captain led his comrades to surround them. Uchiha Tekka, we seriously suspect you are secretly colluding with the Kirigakure ninja and putting on an act in front of us. Please come back with us now for questioning. They had long wanted to severely deal with the Uchiha but lacked the opportunity. Now, with so many witnesses seeing the Kirigakure ninja deliberately sparing the Uchiha, the evidence was irrefutable. How dare you? Uchiha Tekka covered the bleeding wound on his abdomen with one hand and drew his blade, pointing it at his fellow villagers with the other. The other Uchiha also had fierce looks in their eyes, appearing ready to fight to the death. They had fought until they were covered in wounds, yet this group of supposed comrades did nothing and now wanted to turn against them. They absolutely could not swallow this insult today. Seeing them draw their blades, the other Konoha ninja could no longer hold back. They gripped their weapons and stepped forward. Just as both sides were about to clash, a figure appeared abruptly in the crowd like a streak of light. Stop. Everyone looked and saw that it was Uchiha Shisui. Shisui looked at the two sides with drawn blades, filled with grief and indignation. He had originally been leading his squad to reinforce Minato Namikaze. He sensed fighting here just now and rushed over, only to witness a scene of internal conflict. Tekka, what happened? He quickly questioned his clansmen, and after hearing the story, he was filled with rage. It was obvious that Kagaya Tetsu was inciting discord, using words to turn the two sides against each other. He now strongly suspected that the Godfather and the investigation report on the Uchiha resistance movement were also that guy's work. What a naturally evil brat. He turned and walked in front of the civilian ninja, and under everyone's shocked gaze, he bowed slightly. Everyone, I apologize. Our Uchiha members were in the wrong. Uchiha Tekka was about to speak, but Shisui stopped him with a stern look. Shisui was the clan's second-ranked genius. His orders were almost equivalent to the clan head's. You don't hit a smiling person. Seeing this great genius act so humbly, the civilian ninja calmed down considerably and all stated that it was just a misunderstanding. After appeasing both sides, Uchiha Shisui said to Tekka. The two of you immediately coordinate with your comrades in the village and find Minato-sama to provide support. I will go look for Kagaya Tetsu. Given Minato's strength, he can hold out against any enemy for a while. But Shisui had a faint premonition that he must eliminate Kagaya Tetsu immediately, or the consequences would be endless. Thanks for watching.